Welcome to the Condor DM show. Tonight is off script, casual night for my people, right? You notice on a night like tonight, I sit down. When I'm covering specific games, I'll do the stand up thing. When I'm doing the regular Condor DM show, that's what you get me standing up, me performing. Here, I sit down because it really is about being open to allowing you to lead the conversation. On these off script nights, I won't always have a plan for some things I'll talk about. Tonight, I want to talk a bit about travel and pacing. As you know, when I talk about things right now openly, it's old school gaming set from the year 1974 to 1999. So if I'm talking about an area and there's usually like an upgrade from that, that won't be the case, right? I won't be talking about, say, tonight's travel and pacing. So I'll be talking about travel and pacing as far as how from 1974 to 1999, the games handled it. So if games handled that a bit differently into the year like 2000 and beyond, I'm not going to cover it here exactly, right? Though you're free to ask me whatever question. Tonight is off script where the chat, my supporters, my people get to, if they wish, lead the conversation. If they just want to listen in, I'll talk. I'll do whatever is needed to make sure tonight is a good night. But welcome to the Condor DM show. Tonight is off script, and off script night is, like I said, me sitting here, right? Now I'm starting a little bit early because I'm not going to hit heavy on the issues or heavy on the topic I'm going to sort of talk about tonight. It's just given time for it's casual time, right? Sometimes I'll start a half an hour early, could be 15 minutes, could be an hour, depending on the time I have. And there's Craig. I think you'll appreciate this tonight. You know, old school gaming is weird when it comes to travel and pacing because when I hear conversations about this, I sometimes think that the guys don't understand the expectation of old school tabletop role playing game designers. Now, when I say something like, this is what they want you to do, I'll always point out that this is what the designers intend for you to do. It doesn't even mean that I personally say I do exactly that, right? Oh, well, cook away, but if I got your ear, I can chat away, no worries. But like when it comes to travel and pacing and that, when I talk about certain things and I say it's like even Dungeons and Dragons, you'll hear me describe how old school Dungeons and Dragons is meant to be. Say how you are meant to play it for survival, avoid combat. But I'll follow it up by saying that's what the designers intend for you to do. I'm not here telling you what to do, and I'm not even here saying I always follow exactly what the designers intend with a game. But I'm doing as much fact-based coverage of things as I can. So I want to talk truthfully. Here's what the designer intends. Travel is not simple. Uh, I'm going to talk about pacing. A lot of people will think one-to-one timing with, say, D&D. Pacing is way more advanced. Old school designers really thought you would be up here in performance and up here in your deep understanding of what they intend for you to do. And so, like travel, it's really unique, and you're supposed to put stuff out there, and you think, well, don't I have to have everything set up because you're thinking maybe D&D? Like if I say something's there, what if players want to go check it out? Well, first off, I would say be comfortable with improvising. But if you go outside of Dungeons and Dragons, you would notice every game gives you ideas, and you could randomly say something is there to communicate the feel, and that's an important. You can communicate something, but it's all kinds of stuff, information you have, so you can improvise comfortably. You could prep some things, but you can do things like when you travel and you're saying they're going by scenery. It can't just be skip. Like travel can be paced where you're purposely saying things because what are you meant to get out of old school tabletop role playing games? You're not just playing a mechanical game in a way, you're supposed to get a feel, an experience. There's one area where most of the games don't seem to care about it all. So I find it funny that new school people seem to think this is a big, important part of the game. Though I put some importance on it myself. When it comes to social interaction, it's not the main topic of tonight. They never expect you to do voices. The idea of social interaction is it's part of the game. So speak, right? That's all you got to do. You got to sort of speak in your own voice. People can assume what they want. You've told them what your character is. There's no concern over tone or changing your voice. I personally push tone changes. So if you can't do voices, you could change your tone, soften it up, be more aggressive. You know, a lot of people can't do unique voices, so that's an easy way to allow anybody to come in and still give some adjustment to their voice so it communicates their character. If you're a game master, you change your tone for the different NPCs. And lucky you if you can do some unique voices, but it's not really a major part of the game. There's a game element to social interaction where the game designer just expects you to talk in character. So talking is important. They do want you to talk, but that's how that is. I'll give you some generalization about pacing. Pacing isn't just in combat, pacing is like in a scene. So, say you're doing a scene for a specific game. It's like, say, doing Toon, which is a sort of joke gag on cartoons. Well, they expect you in the midst of the scene to do what the cartoon would do. You push gags in, you do that. And most tabletop role playing games, especially D&D, it's true with D&D, but just a lot of people don't run it this way. You when you go into a scene, you're meant to talk right away, and you're meant to really talk and do actions pretty much active through an entire scene with things happening. When you're done talking, the scene's over. It's like the game master shouldn't have to worry about looking for a trigger for when you're done. It's when you're not no longer really, like, you say you slow down on talking, you become quiet as a group or whatever, the scene is dead. And in most scenes, it's not like just sitting around the table in Dungeons and Dragons. The game master is responsible for making sure there's NPCs or whatnot in the scene for you to interact, and they should be pushing interaction towards you or some type of pressure to get you to talk right away. Right? So pacing and scenes can be very important. Each game is different in how they pace scenes. It could be like you're going into like a samurai one where it's how people show up into the scene, right? Or the Toon thing, it's how you're going to do jokes and break into the scene. But scenes can either be slow, depending, they want long conversations, or scenes are meant to be quick, say what you got to say, the scene is over. That's pacing in a scene. That's an example of pacing, right? And travel and pacing can mix these two topics. It can sound very out there, but I got to tell you, I've been doing it for years, right? Oh yeah, hex scroll. Like, I mean, like, here, get some information. Tons for travel. Like, not just getting from point A to point B, but games where the journey itself mattered. Movement shaped gameplay, travel changed tone, survival or identity. Geography became part of the experience. I'll give you an example. I'll read through what I have written down for Traveler. This is probably the single most travel focused RPG of the era of between the games I'm talking about. Okay, so travel was the campaign structure for Traveler. Fuel management, jump routes, cargo, trade, ship debt, maintenance, time spent in transit, starport quality, political borders. You were often merchants, scouts, smugglers, wanderers, explorers. I heard a huge part of gameplay, surviving financially, planning routes, finding profitable cargo, deciding which worlds were worth the risk. Travel was not downtime, it was the game. This heavily influenced sandbox play, ship crew campaigns, merchant campaigns, procedural exploration games. Travel was something you really focused on in Traveler. And it's part of when you're traveling, it's like, think about movement and play, social interaction, the whole thing, right? When I talk to D&D people, I don't think that some of the Dungeons and Dragons guys really understand just how much designers expect from you in travel. There'll be hex play where you can jump to this and this or some detail, but what about the feel of the setting or the place? What else are you supposed to communicate during the thing, right? And are you meant to communicate quite a bit that you probably don't want to prep all this work ahead? No, designers expect you to improvise. So that idea of improvisation is casual amongst old school tabletop role playing games. Like, you are to look at tables, ideas, and information, even in D&D. And the idea is you want to give a feel. So you have to really take in the information they're going to give you about a setting. And they're saying people should see this or know about this, or even the NPCs you're going to run into. You need, as a game master, the designer actually expects you to make this happen. Not just you let people cross over to here and that's it, or you skip time on travel. Of course, you skip some time. You're not there exactly 24/7, but they expect you to make sure there's NPCs so you can interact with them and know what an NPC out here is like what it would be like socially to meet people out and about where you're at, right? Or to see ruins, when you're crossing areas. And if you're dry on this stuff, you're taking away not just the feel, but even how you communicate a setting. Because the ruins, these details are meant to give you a feel, but also meant to make you ask questions, give you an idea, even the design of the ruins. What was that? What was here? Right? And as a game master, you're actually meant to put this stuff in. Now, what if players want to interact with all of the stuff you're saying with their characters? It's the part where you can prep some stuff if you want. If you really want to, and the game doesn't say you can't, and it gives you all the tools to either prep, or if you really are comfortable, improvise. So improvisation is sandbox play. Improvisation is casual expectation. And it's more so in non-D&D games than D&D itself, right? In non-D&D games, pure sandbox is the way you're supposed to play. And in pure sandbox, improvisation, it's like 70 to 80% of the work the game master does. Meaning, you might hear somebody try to explain, well, where there's a place with walls, there's limitations, you can only go so far. No, old school games expect, especially outside of D&D, that there's no walls, complete freedom. And the way you give that to players is that you will improvise anything, anywhere, no matter what they do, no matter where they go. So it's complete freedom for players to do whatever they want, and it's pressure on you. Now, that pressure might sound hard to a lot of guys, especially Dungeons and Dragons folks. But, and I'm not saying I expect you to do that. I'm saying the designer expects the person at the head of the table to be very high performance and very intelligent. They want you to be someone who's actually a deep thinker who will understand the stuff, and that the pressure they're putting on you is okay. You're somebody made for that pressure. And they're not intending to put that pressure on people that can't handle it. So that sounds very difficult as a game master to accomplish, improvising, 80% of the game, for example, in a true sandbox. Well, they just expect you to not be sitting at the front of the table. That's the designer just expects, no, they're not intending you to be the game master. They're intending people, and they expect hobbyists to be the main people playing the game. So they expect actually most people to be pretty high up here in performance and deep thinkers that are going to understand. Like the type of guys that will, after a war game, will write out 10 pages on the war, keep documents, go through every detail. Because war gamers were like this. Some of them could get really deep into it. These were hobbyists. And so if you're making a game for them, you're not going to make it for the general public. It's just that Dungeons and Dragons drew a new audience in, and you got to understand, designers don't really realize at first who they're making the game for. And then later, some designers say, I'm only making it for a niche, when they start realizing the casual general public started coming to D&D. Well, they said, you'd see it. My game is for a niche. What do they mean? Their game is for the hobbyist. It is not for the casual. So if a casual DM would read something like Pendragon and go, well, I think I know what that means. I hope at least the designer's intent is that you will, because they expect you to be a deep thinker. Performance and scenes, like say doing even the tune thing, because it can be chaotic on purpose. Timing, doing the comedy in the scene. And scenes have to start where there's action and talk the entire time. These are not scenes where characters sit around, nor is it meant to be. If it gets to the point where a scene slows down like that, scene's over. You move on. And some scenes can meant to be slower conversations, depending on the game. Some scenes can be meant to, you get to the point. And the game master has a lot of responsibility in all of these type of things. Like in scenes or in travel, the game master needs to be applying stuff, telling you see stuff, and you can choose to interact with it. Or in a scene, there has to be NPCs or pressure on characters so the players are constantly talking. Maybe there's a phone call coming in or some type of communication device goes off, an NPC is going to break in, and there's going to be talk and reasons to talk. And when that talk is over, their actions decided, you move to the next scene right away. You don't wait. All right. So pacing is important. Travel pacing is also important. When I've explained this to other people in the past, if I meet with a more casual gamer, some of this stuff can sound like, it sounds really hard. I'm like, I'm not trying to insult you, and it's not me who wants to. I get you're casual. I'm actually fine with you being in the hobby. The designer has not made the game for you. And I'm not trying to insult you, nor does the designer hate the casual people. Though some designers later, closer, like in the 90s, especially, they started making their games for only hobbyists. So in a way, you might say, without them being crude about it, they really didn't intend it for you, right? If you were casual. Some designers just expect hobbyists to be playing their games. So they just have they think if it sounds difficult to you, fine, that's good. It's just telling you that it's not, a certain role might not be meant for you, maybe the player role. Some games would have a lot of pressure on players too. Not every game. A lot of games took a lot of pressure off players and put it mainly on the game master. So you'd hear complaints, well, there's a lot of work on the game master. Yep. The designer intends you to be high performance, deep thinker, and not be pressured by this stuff. They expect casual people to have a hard time with it. So they would have you, somebody that can handle the pressure, they're expecting you to run the thing. If you bring in the wrong people to try to run that game, the game is going to flop or feel generic, and they'll give you warnings in the material. Like if you don't run it like this or do this, it's going to feel generic. They'll tell you before you complain about the game. And you would hear complaints like, this game feels generic. Read far enough into the material of the game, you'll actually see points where the actual material is telling you straight out, it will feel generic if you only do this, if you skip over these things. Because it's a mix of a game and an experience where you're in the world, expects a feel and a pace and everything else, and all that from travel to pacing, mix it up. It's meant to give you an experience like you're living. You're embodying something in that world, right? And the game master is meant to bring that to life for you. Give you the scenes, give you the travel. It's meant to make a setting feel like it's meant to feel. To not just a feel to the setting, but even the things you're expressing to the player characters is to, it could be like the way you communicate lore. Like, so even how somebody will experience Bushido, for example. Bushido has strict ways of dialogue. So if you speak wrong, it can get you in so much trouble. I mean, it could bring so much chaos to your group and to your character that it can be very damaging to the overall game that you're playing with the characters. So you could be out on the road. Well, you're meant to run into people on the road. So there has to be people to run into, and then you got to watch what you say. The other thing is, in a game like that, when you're new to it, like Bushido, a game master is not meant to teach you what you shouldn't do. In all old school games, just about every old school tabletop role-playing game, the designer intends for the player to learn through experience. So if you cave your group in on some bad dialogue in Bushido, like you get in so much trouble, you're pretty much going to bring chaos to yourself or death or fighting. That's how you learn, right? You don't get the lesson beforehand. Like you're not meant to. You're meant to learn in game. Dungeons and Dragons is true about this too. Even the D&D guys that were war gamers, they expect you to learn in the game, not have a DM explain that you need to watch out for this type of thing or pay attention with your character. So the idea is you learn through experience, right? But anyway, that's I hope I'm not being too vague. I think I'm being pretty straightforward here, but I got some information written down. I got all kinds of notes for this, but we won't dig too far in. And I got to say this, over the years, most people I've seen run the games that were not in the hobbyist zone, they simply just run them without doing what the designer wanted. Now, am I saying you ran it wrong? No, no. I mean, I look, if you run a game and whatever way you run it, you don't enjoy it or enjoy it, that's up to you. If you understood it or didn't, don't know. I don't have, it's not like I have a dog in the fight on this, right? It's just I'm trying to be honest about the games. So it's me understanding what the designer wants, and I'm trying to communicate real information to you. And I'm not trying to put it like, oh, they expect you like people to be better than other people, but in a way they do. So there's some truth in what I'm saying there. That's not me being egotistic. And neither were the designers. If you actually look at designers, they're not being egotistic. They don't see the hobby as being for casual people. That's what, a lot of the casuals that came in through D&D, they just don't realize it. They don't know that designers and the people making up tabletop role-playing games were a lot of war gamers, as you know, if you study this. A lot of war gamers made the games. And they have an idea that it's hobbyist, hard thinkers. If you go into wargaming, they expect hard thinking, tracking, caring about feel of everything. And that's war gamers took all that deadly serious. They expect that mindset to be carried over to the hobby, and that the hobby is intentionally being made for that mindset. So it's not to insult you. They don't hate the casual person. They think you're going to be into tabletop role-playing games the way you're into war games, which you're not. War games never attracted a lot of casual people. So they expected this hobby to be something similar, which is appeal to the people that are already in this type of, sort of hobbyist mode, right? So they're making their games for hard thinkers. They're not making it like they hate casual people that are going to come into the hobby through D&D. They just don't know. And to them, at the same time, if you talk to some of the designers, and I've seen interviews with them, like it's they almost don't care. So there is some ignorance in some of them where they're very unsympathetic to the casual people coming into the hobby. Like, well, you're not a deep thinker? Okay. It's not meant for you then. Now, I personally don't have this type of ego about it, but it's if you want to understand the designers so you can understand their game and you understand what they're doing to get a certain experience out of the game, without me telling you this stuff, it can become confusing. In games, I could be teaching you about games, and if you go play casual, you'll have a generic experience. And so it won't be hyped. The reason I enjoyed the games is, I'm not trying to brag, I'm a hobbyist. So I'm up here. And that's not to say I'm better than people, it's just how serious I took the game, right? Or games. So I would go and have a great experience, a very unique experience with my players. And I bring in the right kind of players for certain games, so there's certain pressures. I understood this. I go in and have a great experience. So when I communicate that to you, I'm in love with this stuff. I'm addicted. But for me to tell you you're going to get that experience out of it, I'd be lying to you if I tell you you're going to casually get it out of it. So I say this game is this, and you hear me hype it up. I'm being honest, but you're not going to get that experience if you don't put the same effort into what you're doing, especially on the game master end, right? So when I give advice, people sometimes don't understand why I'll pressure on things like put these scenes in or do this. Because most old school games, the rules could be pretty light. The rules, the dice system was simple. Stuff like that was simple. So the better advice is to tell you, put this in or make a scene this, and you'd be like, well, that's about a scene. Why is that so important? Because that is really what the designer is trying to get out of you. And for you to have a scene, experience a scene a certain way, that's what you do. Now, when you get into a game and you actually experience a scene ran in the way I'm talking about, saying like in tune, being funny or something like that, the scene is fun for the players. They really do feel it, right? The timing, the pace of it, they feel it. It is a good time. If I put you into the scene without doing certain elements of the scene, that scene can become dry in the experience and the feel that you'll have going into it. And so, will you enjoy the scene if I do these more detailed things correctly? Or when you travel, if I'm making sure to put things in that you're supposed to run into, experience, and see, is that better than just skipping a lot of it, telling you to jump to a scene, not be so concerned? Yes, if I put you into travel where I'm taking you through this stuff, man, it can feel awesome. Your experience as a player will be great. But if you go through that same scene and I don't put that stuff in, your experience will be down here. It will feel lacking, right? And especially if I give you the comparison. If I do travel where I'm doing it in this way the designers intend, it's going to feel good. If I say, okay, all right, the next day starts and I start doing it more casual without making no attention to detail in the same way, you as a player will actually have a worse time with that part of the travel. So you'll know right away the difference in quality you're experiencing and why the designer cares about that. Because your feel while the travel will actually be heightened up by doing things right. And when those things aren't put in or the game master isn't concerned, your experience becomes lower. And so a lot of games that can be great or settings that can be great, even in Dungeons and Dragons, can die on the vine if people don't do certain things like the person running the game. Because it's like Dark Sun. I'm going to talk about Dark Sun coming up soon, right? Dark Sun's a very unique game. But I mean, outside of images, how do you experience that setting other than just gameplay? Well, it's scenery. It's how you're supposed to travel through the place. It's how you're supposed to take it in. It's how your character should feel, which that feeling should lean over to you as a player, and it will. If you got a good DM running it, communicating it to your right, and making sure to give you this experience. And then what if you want to go interact with all these things that the game master is saying? Well, that's the thing. In sandbox gaming, which is the majority of old school tabletop role-playing games, you can go anything that is said to you, even if I'm just saying it without detailed plans, you can go to. But the games, if you read like a game like Traveler, it gives you all this information. So when I go to improvise, there's all these possible things it could be. And I already know this if I've studied the game well. So, okay, I've never had a plan for that, but you want to go check that out? Okay, I can start applying things through improvisation. Good evening, Black Rose. Yes, fantastic human beings here. I think Mr. Work might be around. He's a second edition guy. And talked about Hex Crawl, which is very important to D&D people, especially. Craig is doing some supper. I'm giving some talk about the high scale of pacing and travel. I don't know if people understood what I was going to say tonight about pacing and travel. I think they think I was going to talk about some. I will talk about more simplistic things, but it's not just so simplistic. This is me explaining, because I mean, I'm doing this here in old school gaming. How do I communicate old school gaming if I don't tell you the honest truth about the most designers' expectation of your performance up here and the details mattering and pure sandboxing, improvisation? All this is true from game to game. So it's like, if you don't understand this, I'd be lying to you. If I start skipping over this stuff, that means I probably don't understand it myself, right? So I have to tell you how important this stuff is. And the expectations of game masters are up here. So you notice when I've done past criticisms and defenses, what's one of the most common criticisms of almost every old school tabletop role-playing game that you guys have heard me say that I've researched? It's too much work on the game master. Because that's what casual people would say all the time. Almost every game they read, that's too much work. Not if you're a hobbyist, it's not. That's it's You're a hobbyist, you perform up here, you're a deep thinker, you're ready for the pressure. If you're a casual person that's come through D&D or just casual period, however you got into the hobby, it will seem like a lot of work on you. And this will be a complaint for more casual people coming into the hobby if they try games outside of D&D, especially, right? But D&D could be true. The pressure is there. It doesn't mean you have to do these things. And most people I would see run the games wouldn't, or they wouldn't achieve what I'm talking about, right? Or they put limitations on how much they'd be willing to improvise. So they wouldn't even offer pure sandbox, even though the designer intends for you to do this, right? Travel is another thing that can be very important. So it's the ways you experience travel or how important or how often you're traveling can be very important. Like Traveler is traveling quite often throughout the game. It becomes a core piece of what you're doing. But traveling in other games, it's not that you're always doing it, but every time you go to travel outside the door, you're meant to experience a setting. Sometimes travel is how you communicate parts of lore. Instead of doing big lore dumps, a lot of lore can be either you encounter the aliens, but also just traveling through the world. And then there's like games like Bushido, where it's like every other game, but you got to make sure as a game master that you put in things through travel so players can experience with their characters what they're meant to. They say, well, when you travel through Bushido, you got to watch, who you run into and what you'll say. Well, then that means there has to be people you're running into. The game master has to put that seriously in and make sure you're actually encountering people or seeing scenes, and they have to be conscious of doing this all the time. So they actually communicate this stuff to you or let you experience it. Game masters a lot of game masters I've seen, especially casual guys that would try to run the games, I'd hate to say it, from the designer's point of view, not me personally attacking them, but from the designer's point of view, the designer would probably consider them lazy people trying to run their game. And then what would you hear? What's one of the famous criticisms I've told you guys about mini games? They'll say it's generic. The games can feel generic. Even though I ran the same game, doesn't feel generic at all. But it's because I'm doing all the things the designer wants done. It's when you do it down here, it's going to feel generic because now you're not experiencing that stuff. Now that stuff is not felt by your character. You're not living in the world because you need to do certain things for the player with their character to actually feel like they're in a world doing something. Back to pacing with a scene, not just in combat, but like pacing with a scene like Toon or something like that. Pacing, it's a lot of pacing is you go into a scene and you're expected to be doing stuff from the start right to the end. Pacing can be slow conversations where it's okay to delay, walk around, do action. Some is quick, straight to the point, and it's you got to pressure that as a game master. But it can even be breaks in comedy, like with Toon, where you got to have the Toons doing something funny in the middle of the scene. Oh, this blows up. This happens. And even pacing. It's like you can be doing one scene where you can say every moment is counted, or in some scenes, it could be like, okay, about a minute later, this happens. So it's okay within the same scene to jump in small bits of time, right? But you got to understand that about the expectation of the scene and pacing in the scene. Most games outside of D&D, when the conversation dies down, when the dialogue stops, that scene is over. It's like because the scene is meant to be part of the game and part of the field at the same time. So if you're meant to be playing a game in the scene, well, you talk to the politician, you do this, conversation's over, okay, scene is over. Unless characters are talking to each other for whatever reason, scene is over. So you move on. So pace is meant to be quick, to the point, move on. Sometimes pacing in the scene can be slower. That depends on the game. I get notes for all this stuff. Now, I'm not going to drill more, but that's sort of a rundown on real pacing and travel and expectations from designers, given that the expectation is for the hobbyist, not the casual person who has most likely entered the hobby through Dungeons and Dragons. And again, when you get to the 90s, the designers then sort of know there's casual people in the hobby, and you'll notice I've covered games where it says This is a niche game. It's only made for a small audience. Well, why am I saying that? Because the designer knows about the casuals, but they're still only making their game for the hobbyist, right? So they communicate it's only for a small group, and they're not talking about casual people. Hey, Philo, what's up, my dude? A lot of important talk there at the start, but I mean, we'll draw back into that. I got details for many different games. Like, I got notes for like 50 different games, but it's casual. I'll shut my mouth now. I wanted to give you guys some information. So if you wanted to say something or ask questions or talk, it's now handed over to you guys. It's a casual night. It's off script. So, hey, lead away. Ask any questions you want about travel or pace. And I'll do my best job answering things, responding to things. I got all kinds of notes for all kinds of different games from 1974 right up to 1999 for both the pacing, area, and travel. I got notes. I got my own fucking memory. We'll see what I can do for you. And we'll turn this into a conversation. It's just before 8 o'clock, I wanted to feed some information to you guys. Some thoughts. Get you in a zone, right? It doesn't mean we can't have simple talk about these things either. Don't misunderstand. I'm not trying to set some high standard in conversation here. I don't. When I say simple talk, it doesn't have to fucking be fucking peak high. It's I'm here for the casual. I'm here for everything, right? But it's just I've been drilling this stuff lately about designers and their expectations, and it's impossible for you guys to understand. Like, again, some of the games I know, like even Black Rose here is like the game. I'll pitch a game, and I'm like, yeah, I did promote that game really well, and I know you guys want to check it out. And I'm like, I realize that I've had a great experience with it, and I've shared that with you. But I also want you to know that if you're going to go get the game, understand the expectation of designer to get the similar experience out in some games, not in all. Right? Traveler is a little bit more laid back. So Traveler, when I pitched that's a lot easier to run, even for casual people, but to a degree, there's still expectations of scene and focusing on travel pace. But you can get away with some being a bit more casual with that. So you can get away with a game like that and still have a good time. That's why Traveler does hold up for a lot of people, because it is a game where you can run it at peak and have a really peak experience, but you can be casual and it's not too generic. It's still good, right? Oh, I get how you do it. I was just communicating how the designer says. See, the designer says hand waving if you don't get something prepped. Designer has not made the game for that. They actually expect you to improvise everything. So when you put something, you can put anything in, and you should feel free to do so. Even things you don't have planned out. Players are going to go there or not, doesn't matter. They've given you all the information you need to completely improvise. The designer expects you to put certain things in. That's to create a feel and embody the world. So, and I'm not saying you're wrong doing it that way, Philo. And I totally get that's how a lot of, if I didn't plan anything, like I only put in what I have planned out. Understand, almost every game outside of D&D, improvisation is meant to be done almost 80% of the time. And you have to be willing to improvise as far as the designers concerned, because they don't expect you to do all this prep, but they expect you to create a feel. So if the feel requires that you say they're running across ruins and this and that, the designer expects you to put that in there even without something planned, and expects you to improvise if your players want to check that out. Just saying. But I'm with you. I can be a little bit like this with D&D. I like to prepare some stock encounters and fit it in where we roll interesting encounters, or I plan something out if they are in a dangerous area. Well, it depends on what game we're talking about too. Roll Master, it's a bit of prep. Totally understand. This is it's not a bad way. It's a working man's way. You definitely take it more serious and casual, but say it's one of the things designers intended the games for you to not have to do that. So what they would say is they expect you to maybe have 30% of your places prepped, right? You have prepped ideas. But if to create the feel, right, that people are running across things or like seeing things and whatnot when they travel, which they could choose to interact with, you can't just worry about what you have prepped because they don't expect you to prep the other 70%, but they expect there to be more stuff in there for the players to see. Now, what if players want to go to a place you have no prep work done? Well, the idea is if you really read the material, they have given you everything you need to improvise into the scene, into taking them to a place where you have no prep at all, right? So you can just sort of bring stuff up, bring an encounter up on the spot. Now, Dungeons and Dragons is a little bit more direct with that, with the tables for encounters and that. What old designers would do is just expect you without a table sometimes to be able to know what you want to put in, right? So it's like have an idea where they give you some authority here where it's you are comfortable enough to choose whatever encounter. And not every member. Old games, most of the time you're not meant to do combat. So the idea that you need encounters for all these scenes aren't important either. Some scenes you can let them walk around, they can mess around with old technology, but there'll be no fighting. There'll be almost no encounters to run into. And there's no expectation. Encounters and fights are rare. Well, this is what we're talking about here, right here. This is exactly it. It can be dangerous, some fast blood. Oh, you can do some of that. But sometimes it doesn't even have to be something like that, but it can be. Sometimes it's okay for players with their characters to interact with the ruins with no threat at all. But you detail out what they're seeing. You let them experience a place. So that's actually okay. The designer actually expects that to be part of the rhythm because you're partly playing a game, but you're partly embodying a character and experiencing a world, right? Yeah. But I would say to any game master out there doing old school, not everything has to be in. I like your ideas. That's why I love my fucking chat. I hope people pay attention to people like Philo talking here because Philo's fucking giving lots of good fucking ideas, not just combat encounters. He's old school, so he understands combat's not the core piece of the thing. That's a good old school game master right there. He gets old school. It's not all about fucking combat. It could be dangers from environment. That's something the Sky Realms game, the Druid I just covered, especially pushes on you, environmental problems, chemicals that you can run into at a ruins, not just fights. But there's a percentage of that, a percentage of potential encounter combat you could be in certain places. And there is a potential that just there might be old technology or there might be just a ruins itself. If you come across a ruins and the idea is to communicate lore. So lore, instead of doing big lore dumps, sometimes you go up to a place where it's a ruins and you'll find elements that tell you about the history and the place. And part of the process there is not even the environment or the encounter, but actually learning about the place. Also, all these extra places don't need to be that because they're also part of the feel, right? So if you put stuff in just for the feel alone, like just for like it's there, wow, that looks surreal, and you're giving fluff to it, you're giving explanation. So it's a mix of environmental stuff. In some games, doesn't make it as necessary. Combat, but then sometimes just a place where you can go up and there's no combat, no weather problems, but it doesn't mean it's not part of the game. It just meant it's going to be part of communicating lore, the setting, the place. There might be a book there. There might be a plaque that you can read about the history of the place. And the game usually gives you enough information that even if you have to improvise that in, you can just say there's a plaque telling you something about the lore, which you have not dumped on the players at this point yet. You only do so much, and then you let them experience and learn about the world as they go through. And one way they can do that is encountering places where they go up. It looks really interesting, but they're only going to find out information. It is part of giving them lore, right? Now, lore can even be mixed in with the place where you have a combat encounter. Lore can be mixed in where you face the environmental thing. But the designer values the experience, not just the action. And old school gaming actually expects you to appreciate and be a patient person wanting to experience a world. They think the players are going to expect this because they expect hobbyists and they expect a game master to really appreciate what the world is and want to communicate that. So that's where we say it's more than just a game when it comes to old school, right? One area of surprise they've never drilled on was social interaction with voices. That's a new thing. You would think unique voices were a major thing. No, none of the old designers ever expected you to do a voice. They expected your character description would give an idea of what your character sounded like without you needing to do a unique voice. Now, some of the later games hint at tone change, which is something I took myself, which is, if I'm running a game and I'm doing a female NPC, if she's a soft speaking person, I soften tone, and I tell any player, which is the majority, hey, if you can't do unique voices, you can at least adjust your tone for the character you're playing. Or if you're a game master who can't do unique voices, tone change for the type of person you're speaking as, right, is important. You don't need to do unique voices. Unique voices, I think, is theater kids. And you got to understand, they enter the hobby even in the 70s. So you get theater kids already, theater people, I'd say, coming into the hobby already. They emphasize and make it important to them, but game designers do not see that as an important part of the experience because they expect you to be involved in the world. Like the experience I'm talking about that you're meant to have is meant to be more important than some guy doing a unique voice for his character. Like they think that's small beans, right? Oh, you're doing a unique voice. Okay, sure. Yeah, that's what about the world? What about the place you're in? What about how it feels? What about what it looks like? What about the magic? What about whatever it is? They expect you to be more concerned with that experience than worrying about somebody doing a unique voice. And they thought the way they would describe it is if the DM describes or the game master describes the NPC or the player describes the character, that through imagination should communicate what the character is likely to sound like or the NPC is likely to sound like, and let players just do that through their imagination. That actually works, right? Oh, I love that. I love that. It doesn't take much. Always have to remind some game masters. What about scenes where, because most scenes in old school games are meant to be active and go. What about scenes in D&D where you do camping or at the table? But in reality, even in D&D, you're not meant to just sit around being quiet. But that will happen to groups. Easy. My best advice for any DM or game master of any game, if you get people that are slow to roll talking, is a simple question, a simple statement, something said, like a breaking of the ice, but a simplistic breaking of the ice gets the mind thinking for the players. I mean, especially it gets the mind thinking and rolling. And once you get you could be in a dead scene where nobody's talking for a moment. If you have an NPC there, ask a simple question. A simple question will get people talking. And once the talking starts, you're in. Motor runs forward because every word is going to create a thought and a reaction. And so it's a minor manipulation. You're manipulating the players in very minor ways, but it works. You don't have to be overly advanced in this area. A small breaking of the ice makes people think. What I do when I'm doing scenes without NPCs, and especially if I have an experienced player that I know will move dialogue along or usually take initiative, I just remind them, hey, like I have a talk with those kinds of players. We get to the camp scenes. If the group is quiet, say something. Like I put it, it's like if I don't have an NPC there, you can go ahead and move, right? Because I might not have pressure. Usually you use pressure to get conversations going, but in a camp scene like what you're talking about, Philo, there's not always pressure to make happen. So what you do is, what I've done cleverly is talk to players that I know take the initiative and go, you're going to become my pressure. You're going to become the person who asks a simple question. You don't got to blow your head up, player, but a simple question, a simple statement. a joke, even just to get players to think and react, and the mind moves forward like a motor. And I tell any game master, if you don't believe that advice works, just have a dig group that sometimes goes to a camp and doesn't say much, or they're sitting at the table and they don't say much. Do what I'm saying. It will always work. Like it will work, always work. Right. So I think it's really great advice, especially with D&D, because that happens more with Dungeons and Dragons, where most scenes outside of D&D, there's you have the tools to put the pressure or have the NPC there to already go and push it forward. So you automatically put people in the players in scenes where you have the tools. In D&D, sometimes you'll put your player characters in scenes where you have not provided yourself with an NPC, or it's just camping at night, so the pressure tool is not within your grasp, right? You have not set that up for that night, so they don't have that pressure. There they are camping. How do you get activity going? You get somebody to say something, either a player, but if you're lucky, you could do things like have something happen. Like sometimes I've done this where players get really quiet with a new group and I don't have a trigger. Here's another trick I'll use. I'll have something happen. It could be a noise. It could be something basic, and they figure it's just basic. Just, hey, something, the wind blew and knocked over something basic. There's no trickery. There's no ghost in the woods, but they react to it. And with a reaction, they'll say something to each other. Triggers in, conversation started. It's minor manipulation, but it actually works. It's a slight pressure. It's innocent because really you're just having wind blow something. Maybe one of the characters are walking over and they step on like a little twig. You say, oh, you crack. It's nothing. You stepped on a twig. Just complete innocent. They're at first they'll be like, what's up? But now they're thinking. And they'll say something. Somebody will say something out loud. You're guaranteed it every time. So you can apply little minor manipulations to get people to talk. That helps get conversations going. So if you have a group that goes into quiet mode, my tricks work there. NPC says something basic. You have a good player that you communicate with outside of the game that will definitely initiate a basic statement or question. And if you don't have either one of those and you just have a new group and they're at a camp scene, there's no pressure, no nothing, make something really innocent happen just to have them react to it, and you get it going. And it works. It's actually really good advice, because I don't know how many DMs I've heard like, yeah, my players get to a scene, they're not saying anything. And that complaint is so often that even if you're not running into it, if you're here listening to the stream, there might be a lot of guys here that don't encounter that, especially with the people I draw to my channel. Like Philo probably doesn't encounter that. A lot of guys don't encounter that, especially if you're playing with the right kind of people. But there's a lot of people out there that if they listen to the stream later, that little bit of advice will be very helpful to them. Because you'll find yourself in these moments. My advice sometimes can seem a little vague, but it's when you're in the moment and you're game mastering, it's in the moment when it goes did for you, and you remember I said this, and then you do the thing I suggested because it goes quiet on you. It will work. That's when you'll appreciate my advice. But that type of advice is minor from experience of doing things over and over and over again, right? Like you just learn how to get these things going. Minor manipulation can be very powerful. Also, you got to, sometimes I tell players, another thing about outside games outside of D&D, a lot of players think if you say that they see something, they likely you're intending for them to interact with it. So what I say to players, if I'm running any other game, like say Skyrim's of Jaroon, which is the recent one I covered, if I say you see something, you don't have to interact with it, but you can. But you don't have to, right? You don't have to interact with everything you're seeing. Basically, I'll tell them like there's no you have to do this. If you're traveling to a place with the intention to talk to somebody, or there's no threat coming at you, you can just look at the place I'm describing. You can say your characters look. You can talk about it while you travel by. That's all you got to do. So you can choose. You can pick and choose where you want to stop and what you want to interact with, right? Because it really should be like that. That's why you mix improvisation with some prep. If I put prep work in, I usually am going to make something happen that is pressure towards the players to react to it, right? Yeah, anything to make people think that you got a Black Rose. It's exactly it. It's small triggers. You don't have to be a genius doing this stuff. It's just small little things to make players think, and once their minds go, they'll usually react, and it will turn into something verbal, right? Yeah, and that's it. Blow your mind how easy it is to get people to talk. It's just that there's nothing happening. The mind's not like it's standstill. You got a standstill moment, like it's a show. It's a showdown. Like there's nothing happening. You got to sort of break the. I call it breaking the ice, but you're not going to be a genius to make it happen. That's why I think the advice is really good, because the advice can work for anybody, and it's something simple anybody can think of. So it's really great common sense advice. And there's a lot of times where you will, if you game master enough over time, even with the same group, usually they be active. But tonight, they're not. You can't always guarantee your players are just going to instantly talk when you go into a scene, no matter how many times you've done things with them. So knowing these little things, especially if you just don't have an NPC there or something, and you don't have no obvious pressure, that's when you get the rabbit. That's when the weather change. Oh, little sprinkles of rain coming down, right? No, but you want them to talk, Philo. What's the point of putting them in the scene where they have a chance to talk about what's going to go down and talk in the future? And you also got to remember this, Philo. It's character development opportunities, opportunities for players to talk to each other with their characters so they can work on teamwork, which is going to work for them in game. If you don't let this stuff happen, it then I'd have to say this is where an experienced game master will straighten you out on this, right? If you go, oh, it's not necessary. No, it's necessary. An experienced game master will tell you this. You let them talk. You let character development happen because you want players to get attached to their characters. It makes the game more intense for them. So it's a better experience the more they connect and develop who the character is. The other thing is teamwork. You need to let players talk to each other in character as often as you can give opportunities to them. The more comfortable in character, especially in character, not talking out of character, but in character talking means there's a lot of times when you have players playing the game and they'll say, I get my character to go do this. And the other players are like, okay, so he's running off. There's a reason this is happening. That player has not had his character say anything out loud, and there's no communication. The character's going to make a move, but he's just completely forgotten to communicate anything to the other characters. But there's probably a reason why. They don't often talk in character to each other. So the necessary to get the character to say the thing out loud is have them so comfortable with communication, and use things like camp scenes. The laid back scenes are really helpful to let that happen, right? It's you let that happen. That's part of developing teamwork through communication. And our players aren't military people, though these games will expect you to be in combat and whatnot. So there's one effective thing for the non-military amateur to learn, especially the non-wargaming, especially the casual players. If they can't be military people, the one clue into teamwork is communication. That can be so effective for later, even talking during the fight, talking while they're going through a place, and they're so comfortable with talking, the player actually has their character say what he's thinking out loud to the others. He remembers to do this instead of running off, right? So at those scenes, it can become very important to take advantage and let that scene not drag, of course, not over drag, but you're looking to make it active. So when you first give it to them, what I'm saying is not drag. So don't misunderstand that part. It's just say you start the camp scene and they're not saying much. Well, even if you're not going to drag it out for a long time, you do want them to use it, right? What's the point of setting up the camp scene? They barely talk, it's over. Then the effectiveness, and it's fun to do this, to actually interact in character. So there's fun, there's experience, there's development in character, development in relationships with other characters, communication, teamwork, and all that happening all potentially in one scene. And the only thing you have to do to help them along if they get dry at the start is a trigger, either through an NPC. If you don't got pressure coming from whatever they're on, like they're a limited amount of time before, so there's pressure just coming in on them for whatever reason they might talk. But if there's none of that, the twig breaking, the thing happening, that gets them to talk, right? And I would say that's effective because it's so effective for the players. They don't have to realize what you're doing for them as a game master. It's not the player's job to run the game. I don't need them to understand these deeper details. Like, you're helping us out with teamwork. No, you don't even got to think of it that way. Players don't need to concern themselves with anything like that. I don't want them to know what I'm doing for them or even to know what's happening, right? It's just, I'm going to let that scene play out. I'm not going to let it drag. I'll be like you. I won't just let it drag on, but I won't let it just die at the start. Barely anything is said, and then we end. Like, I just want something said. And even if it's minor talk, it's still talk. It's a start. So the next time, they'll talk a little bit more. Maybe on travel, they'll talk a little bit more. But it's a start to something. So in other scenes, they talk. I want that all the time. That's why I don't like perception checks in dungeons. Like, I don't like bypassing, not just using your mind, but the activity of looking around, interacting with the other players, characters, stuff like this. I like that all to happen. And that's warming up the mind for the more challenging parts of the game, right? Because by the time I get you to the big challenge, I'm going to have to blow your head up. And I hope I've not dulled your mind before we get to that part, right? So that becomes important to me. Though, a lot of what you said is great fucking advice. Nothing wrong with it. But at the camp scene, that would be the exception. I know a lot of guys that do skip some of that stuff. So I'm like, I'm not saying it has to be major conversation, but make sure you get something, even slight, out of it, and give them an opportunity, because that's effectively good for your players. There's nothing bad about it. So it's not boring and it's not throwaway. But I would agree with anybody like yourself who says, don't let that drag on too long. Of course you don't let it drag out. I don't let any scene drag out too long. Same thing if they were sitting at the table at the end. I want them to talk at the table. Why throw away the opportunity? So I'll have an NPC say something. I'll have a pressure come in from the outside to get them to speak. There's no point just letting them sit around and then they get up and go. Because the more they don't do something, how can I say it? The less they talk in character, the better they get at not talking to each other. It's going to sound weird, but it's true. So the more they're playing without character interaction between the characters, they'll get used to it. They'll actually get used to it. It become common negative practice. And this is where you'll get scenes like the player saying his character runs up because really he's thought of something and he hasn't bothered to communicate that out loud. Or even worse, imagine you're trying to deal with a puzzle and you see the players all sitting around like this. Like, well, wouldn't it be better to deal with puzzles and traps where everybody works together so you get a bunch of minds, like working as one mind, sort of, dealing with the trap? So if this guy doesn't think of a certain detail, this guy over here might have. So having people talk to each other becomes important for communication, information passing, and working together, team sport, right? Against traps, puzzles, all the shit in front of them, or even the enemies coming up on them. Like, don't you want to have players where they're so comfortable with their characters? You have a player who in character says, okay, guys, like starts giving warnings, especially to players that might be sort of stalled. Like they're stunned at what they're saying. They're not saying what they should say with their character. Like, you're thinking to yourself as a game master, you should be backing up right now. Right? But they're in stun mode. And so it'd be great if another player with the character, all right, guys, are you going to back up? You get over here with me. If you got a leader in your group, not a leader like just takes it by label, but someone who can lead, just naturally. You want them to be comfortable with communicating, so that happens. So then you get somebody stunned, you back off appropriately, and the time you're giving them, they take advantage of it instead of the enemies coming up on you. Okay, you're waiting for them to do something. As you as a game master cannot tell them to do this stuff. Right? You got to hope they're going to do something. And if you get certain players that are not military people, they're just regular folks. And we all know this. We've all experienced it as game masters. When you get casual people, they don't think like strategist wargamers. A lot of them get stunned. This is why you'll have the guy who has this wizard with a staff trying to fight goblins or an orc, right? They'll be up like, I got my staff and swinging at the orc. What the fuck are you even doing here? why are you still like at this range with a fucking orc? And no game master is usually going to force you into that scene, so like into that moment. So that player has not moved their character in time. They have not taken advantage of the details, and here they are with a fucking wizard with no armor, almost no hit points, swinging the staff at an orc. So you let the fighter take care of that. You let the range, say in D&D, for example, you let the combative characters take care of combat, right? You make sure, if not, you do get that scene where the wizard is some stunned, non-military, non-wargaming player. Strategy is just, he's going to learn the hard way. But sometimes some players, as much as you hope they learn the first time, it could take them a few times to learn. Sometimes it'd be almost better if they got used to just learning without always failing completely. It's like first time, maybe. Okay, that's a hard learn. Next time, it'd be nice if they at least were communicating with others so somebody could tell them, get the fuck back there, man. What are you doing? No, you get back. You get back. You want that to happen sometimes. It saves a little bit of bullshit. If not, likely the wizard's going to die with his staff against the orc. Stupid move. That's how you get a total party kill in D&D. You can almost end a campaign if you talk wrong in Bushido, so that's another thing. Like if you play games like Bushido, that changes the whole outcome. Well, then you really want to get players used to talking in character. That becomes necessary. Geez, a camp scene for them is that's opportunities. Just saying. So that's pacing of a scene. Pacing can be very important. So we talked a bit about that. We're right at 8:00. I hope I'm responding well. That's not to push back on you, Phil. I'm just saying that's good advice from me to you. And I'm not saying you need tons of advice, but because you do pretty good in all the other areas. But in the camp scene, that would be my advice to adjust on that one. Just a bit. Concern yourself a bit with that. Craig is probably still doing supper. Some talk can go over people's heads when I talk about this stuff because I know there's not a shitload of hobbyists around, and I know what I'm saying makes sense to people. It's like I'm not. I know what I'm saying is something where people are probably going, yeah, it makes sense because I'm explaining this stuff. I know it's not stupid because it's right. This is what the designers intend. If you look at the games, you'll line up what I'm saying. But most people, sadly, I'm not ditching on people. They've never done that, nor do I expect them to do what I'm saying, nor am I saying I do everything I'm talking about either. The camp scene is the exception, though. I do that that's a personal thing. Do I always pace when I do tune scenes with tune? Do I always make sure there's a perfect comedy break in the scene, in every scene? No. Does the designer intend you to do that in every scene? Yes. Not. I think I see something. No, it's Craig Blackrose, and he's in the Wales area, so I think he's more appropriate time for supper. Supper past midnight. You want to know why? If you get home at that time, maybe. I know some people that would. You'd be like, hey, you're just eating supper now? Well, I fucking work all day. I always eat at this time I get home. Just saying. I hope I'm not just being too preachy. I hope some of this is educational because what if some of the people hearing the games I cover, they want to go try them? I just want to give people the best opportunity. And I think it's unique to hear this stuff because I think some of the text doesn't always teach us that well to people. And a lot of people can actually perform the way I'm saying. There's a lot of people out there I find with skills, and they actually they actually run it down here, but they're actually capable of running it up here. But they just need to be pushed towards understanding. That's what it's calling for, right? No, Black Rose, mind your thing. I think you got it right away. No, but it's sometimes you won't even know because you might be a player who has talent to actually run a game like that. So before you get over to Game Master, If you see other people not run it like that, you're going to do what you learn. So if a guy doesn't run, say like the cyberpunk thing, cyberpunk is making sure every scene is set up for all the characters to get the players pressure to play the characters in a certain way, unlike Traveler. Well, if you play cyberpunk and the guy running it for you maybe does that 20% of the time, maybe, and some guys that try to run it don't even do that. Well, that's what you're learning. And if you go try to run cyberpunk, you're probably going to run it the way you're in a similar way to what you're saying. What you won't realize is the designer expects you to do that like 80, 70, 80% of the time. Like what you're seeing is a guy who's not doing that, but you're capable. Doesn't even mean you have to. I'm not telling people how to play games. I hope that's why I opened this up saying that early. When I talk about what a designer intends, it doesn't mean I'm preaching at people that they need to play the game that way or they're playing it wrong. Like, I'll say you're playing it wrong as far as the designer is intending, which it's just a fact-based statement. It's not an attack on you. I'm just telling you the truth. The designer expects this. You're doing this. That's all I'm saying. It's not an attack on you. It's just an accurate truth statement. That's all it is. Me personally, I think you're doing fine if you run a game and you enjoy it and your players enjoy it, however you do it. And I think if you're running it and you're enjoying it, you're doing it right. So if you run Cyberpunk and you only really concern yourself with like 10, 20% of the time getting players pressure on players to play characters in a certain way, but you and your players enjoy Cyberpunk, you got it. You got it right. I don't have an opinion to say you got it wrong. Right? But it's a factual statement to say the designer intends this. This is what the designer expects. It's not an attack on people listening in. So it's like, and that's why I explain that every time that I talk about the designer stuff. Like some people, I had a guy get after me about the D&D stuff privately. He's like, man, I'm sick of you like telling me how to run D&D. Like, well, what do you mean? Because I didn't even understand what he meant when he first came to me on Discord. He added me on Discord. He says, I'm sick of, he goes, I listened to some of your shit, but I'm sick of you telling me to play D&D or run D&D. It's like, what? You checked out my streams, my fact-based streams on like the OD&D, Beck Me, AD&D 1, second edition? He's like, yeah. You're telling me how the guys can't fight from level 1 to 3. No, dude. All right, let me straighten this out for you, dude. I don't run it exactly how the designers intend, but all I'm doing is telling you how the designer intends you to run the game. That's all I'm doing. It's just a fact-based statement. It's not an attack on you. And I said, if you're running it differently and you and your players are having a good time, what do I say? I said, do you pay attention to those streams? Because I actually say it in those streams. I say it directly. If you run it a certain, what do I say to you? Black Rose heard this. Whatever way you run D&D is D&D to me. As long as you guys are having good, I don't have a nerd hold on to the word like, oh, you're playing it wrong. I don't have that opinion. I'm just doing some fact-based statements and I'm telling you the truth. Here's what the designer intends. I'm not saying it to attack you or say you're not doing it right. The only truth I would say is, yeah, if you talk to the designer, if you really did, and you told him you talked to the guy who made Cyberpunk and you said, well, about 20% of the time I focus on that. He might say, that's fine as long as you enjoy it. But in reality, he would say you're not doing it the way he expects. And he was like the Cyberpunk guy was really detailed on this. He really pressured people to do it a certain way. So initially he would say, you are doing it wrong. Now, me personally, Steven, outside of the designer, I would say, are you guys having a good time? Yeah. Okay, that's good. You're running Cyberpunk and enjoying it. You're kicking ass. Because to me, if you're having a good time, you're doing it right. Like if you're enjoying it, you're doing it right. Period. That's my statement on it. Same thing with D&D, right? Tea time now for UK Insomniacs, but still listening. Never underestimate a rabbit, Black Rose, because I know you're checking out. Patrick Raven will cross the road to avoid one. Yes. That's a reaction, though, Craig, right? You get a reaction. So I've had a guy, and then he realized after, like I said, so I'm not saying you run D&D wrong at all, dude. I'm just saying, like, because he was the guy who actually ran AD&D 1E. He's like, look, I do get my players to make 5 characters, and there is a lot of character death. I'm like, well, I said, I'm not attacking you, but that you do a lot of combat between level 1 and 3. He's like, yeah. So was I completely wrong about my description? He's like, no, but I like to run it that way. I was like, well, then you're playing it fine. You're running it fine. Oh, I wish I could show you the other 70 I've done. But to me, I don't really care about putting up fucking live plays. And remember, Miles, let's see, 90% of the other guys that talk about this stuff don't do that. So I don't really concern myself too much. Me, it comes down to when you talk about this stuff, if you know it, anyone else who's been in the hobby doing it, they'll know you know it. They'll never put a test on you like, oh man, I want you to run the game so you can prove this. It's like, dude, just listen to what I say. If I'm full of shit, you'll know it just by me talking. The other 70 live plays were pretty good, but it's hard to gather up players nowadays. That's true for everyone. The expectation that you can just get a group together it's just not easy. Where a lot of people are shy, a lot of people are tribal. I talked to like M. Rourke. That guy was earlier, second edition guy. He wants to run online. I've probably seen about 50 or 60 players, second edition, say they love to play online. Why doesn't he have like a full roster? Because they're not contacting him. They're they like a different content creator. He might talk to me, so now they won't talk to him. So you get your tribalism. You get people too shy to make a connection. People won't open up. And that's just not the way it was many years ago, or even when I was running games before. I have 3 players right now, but even those guys, I think they want to run a little private and get adjusted. We're going to run second edition. I already got a second edition campaign. I'm waiting for them to pitch characters to me. That takes some time. If I do a live play, yeah, I don't mind doing a live play. Doesn't bother me to do it, but it's just like I'm not going to sit here and fucking wait forever for that to happen to give knowledge or good advice out here. It's a waste of fucking time. And you know what I mean? It's like if I have to do it, what about the other 90% of guys that don't? Go talk to them too. Nothing personal. Twisted minds think alike. Same thing. Monty Python team would also avoid the white killer rabbit. In my game, there could be a rabbit where if you meet the rabbit, it's a normal rabbit. But if that rabbit has like a green spot on it, watch out, because if you pick that one up, it might explode. You never know. I try to be crazy and random all the time in my games, especially with D&D. So you never know what the fuck you're going to run into. That's what makes my players go on edge, because if I say something like, okay, you hear the wind blow, they'll be like you hear something move. You feel the wind blow. You can hear like the breeze go by your ear, and you can hear the sound. Any experienced player in my game right away is concerned, because they know it can be innocent. They don't doubt that it can be innocent, but they also know, okay, everything could blow up right now, because you can't trust anything with our DM. As soon as they hear a noise, they're fucking on edge right away. Every experienced player I've ever had, because they know how unpredictable I purposely am, and I purposely am unpredictable. Like I won't just randomly let it sort of casually happen. I'll put things in there so I start manipulating the minds of especially new players. Like you had this experience once, clean. Later on, I'm going to make sure something similar happens again. Maybe not clean, probably not clean, right? And so that will be. It's like being in the cabin, and you hear the knocking on the back of the cabin. And you're like, what the fuck? Is someone banging? In my game, you really don't know if there could actually be a monster out there that would be that creepy knocking against the back of the wall. And I want you to know that there really could be that. Or it could just be a branch off a tree because the wind's picked up, hitting the back of the cabin. And how fast do you want to go outside and check that out? Like some of my players might want to seal the door at that point. Not going out. Can we put something at the door? So whatever's out there doesn't try to come in. They would do that right away. Yeah, I like screwing with the minds of my players. And manipulation just works. Remember, as game masters, our gimmick is manipulation. It's like manipulation, very important. Minor things. But I got to shut up for a minute and give you guys time to think or say something here. Because I keep talking, then it's just you're listening. And off script is meant to be a little bit for you guys to ask me questions, talk about things, tell me what you think. I'm not shy about disagreements either. And of course, as far as back to Miles with the live play, I understand. You know, it's good that you're telling me that you'd like to see it happen, but I'm doing everything I can to make it happen. I can't do more at this stage, right? I personally, the guys I have in life, they're not computer people. They don't want to come on and do a live play. They play with me in person. These are not people that come on here and do this. And to be honest, they know some of the heat I get, so they don't want to really. That's part of the negatives with having haters and being a YouTuber and a public figure. If you have that type of heat on you, sometimes people just don't want to they're like, yeah, we see the shit you put up with, dude. We don't want to go through that. We'll skip on a live play. I'm like, okay. So there's some people in life that would probably do a live play with me. There's some people in life that would likely come onto the stream if they didn't see all the heat that I get all the time from some people. All right. So there's that. Recruiting people online, it's just getting people out of their shyness. Like, that's it. But I got like 3 people right now. I just don't know if the 3 guys that I'm talking to right now want to jump into a live play. And honestly, I got to get to know them a bit first too. I don't want to just jump right into like putting it up on a fucking screen for people to watch. Oh, geez. Adam, hey, Steven, I love your video live stream on how to run a city campaign. I'm interested in running Waterdeep Under Mountain campaign. Wow. Here's the great thing, Adam. Now coming this June, I've adjusted Thursdays to D&D night. I definitely am going to do some of that, but run a city campaign is a beautiful thing. It's one of my favorite things to do, right? Some people will think dungeon all the time. I'm like, no, man, if you are not shy about the talking part, like you don't got to do special voices, but like I do the tone thing and all that. If you can get just comfortable with that and improvising, you can set up groups, gangs, political groups, individuals like the mayor. You can put other fucking side groups coming in, and it can all be politics and competition. And you can do an entire fucking campaign story around that thing. And that's a beautiful thing. I could probably even go further in, especially Waterdeep. But, all right. I'll definitely do some more on that. Even talk about Waterdeep and give you some more ideas. I guarantee that. I got that D&D new stream coming up, so I definitely want to dig into some stuff. Not just the settings, but Adam, the first setting I'm going to cover in June is Dark Sun. Dark Sun might not be your thing, but I guarantee it's going to be interesting just to hear. You might want to be around for that one or check it out when you can. That one I'll sell to you pretty well. I'm wondering what you think about pacing where players spend a little bit too long talking back and forth. The material, I have those 2 subjects. That's where I'm hoping to help people like you. I exactly understand that. Back to pacing back and forth in a location, deeply engaged in problem solving, but not progressing the game for a long time. Okay, so how do I deal with a situation where people get into a part where they're talking and not progressing, like pace is dying, right? All right, first off, I have a little hint that I always throw in this, and this is a verbal thing outside of the game. I'll say as a game master to anybody, I'm like, and this works. So here's a little hint there, Black Rose. I'll be like, okay, guys, You understand right now you're in control of the pace of the game. As long as you're enjoying yourselves, we can keep doing this. That's it. I don't say more. I don't say more. When you get to a point where people are, there's no reason to drive it forward and they're interacting. You're not going to just cut them off. That's not what you're going to do as a game master. Game masters will feel pressured by this. So what do? I'm like, because me, I won't give a fuck. You want to talk to the wall? Talk to the wall. But you're now, like when I say that to players, I understand I've just passed over their experience to them. And I'll remind them, that scene was boring. Yeah, because you were fucking bored. So if you didn't want to be bored, stop being boring fucks. I would say that to them after the session. I'd be really, really on. Because if they said, man, that scene was a little boring, I'd be like, yeah, because you guys are fucking boring. Yeah. So if you want to be fucking boring, you'll have a boring time. Right? But don't fucking put that on me because I passed it over to you. See, the second you say that out loud, Black Rose, you put responsibility on them. See, I'm in control of the pace and everything else. I'm responsible for it and responsible for your experience as long as we're in the zone that you're allowing me to have the pace control. If you're talking dead weight and you keep talking, but you can't figure out anything and you're not figuring out where to go, and it's on you. At one point, I'll just, okay, guys, look, just to let you know, you're controlling the pace right now. And the second I say that to them, now my experienced players will know, oh shit, okay, we better figure out what's going on here. Because my experienced players will know right away. The second I've done that, I've taken responsibility off myself. Like, it's, here you go. Oh, the pace is now on you. You're controlling the pace now. So you want to stand around, talking about nothing? As long as you are having a good time doing it, have at it. Talk about nothing and get nowhere. Now, there's other pressures you could, if you have no pressure, Black Rose. Now, there's other ways to break that. There is other ways to break that. So here's some other little tricks that you can do. Now in D&D, it would be at one point you get the wandering monster, right? That's one way to break the conversation. Something is coming up. Oh yeah, so shit's still going to happen. Like something you could do here. Here's another good advice piece, Black Rose. A noise. Now you're going to have to give a detail to it. They're going to hear some type of noise off in the distance. Now you can relate it to a monster that might be in the area or something, but trigger the noise. Say, okay, like in the middle of the talk, like, here's a noise. You hear a noise off because that will be like, uh-oh, we can't stand around. That a noise is a warning to react. So that can make them have to come back into the scene, right? But it is on to them, not just to talk in circles. So if you have nothing, if you feel like you have nothing, you put the responsibility on them. If not, you do a noise, you could do a wandering monster. You do any pressure the game will also give to you is helpful. Yeah, let's see what you say. Yeah, I've been having a few of those for my current group, but not a constant problem. I remind them they should spend a bit shorter time interacting with a certain NPC or puzzle. If it's an NPC, then it goes back to you, right? So if it's an NPC, the NPC needs to start giving hints. The NPC might even say, like, guys, if you keep standing around here, it's not doing you any good. Like, it's not safe just to stand around here and keep talking. You need to figure out what's going on. Like, you just need have an NPC, be direct with them. If they're dealing with a puzzle, again, it's the trigger thing with the noise, manipulation. It doesn't have to be anything, but it might make them, because here's what you do with manipulation. The less information players have, the more they assume. That's good, though. So it doesn't have to be dangerous, but let them assume. Let them fill the gaps in with whatever they want to, because they'll create danger in their own minds. That's all you got to do with the sound in the background, right? If they're trying to interrogate the NPC, he could start making fun of them. He could start going like, Sure, if you want to stay around here, it's going to be helpful to you. Like make little comments like that. That even if it will fuck with their heads. Do little things like, yeah, yeah, you're gonna figure this place out just standing around talking, asking me stupid questions. Say and do taunting questions too, like, or do taunting comments like, yeah, if you want to keep asking me stupid questions, I'll keep giving you stupid answers. Or have him start whistling. Or if he can start like calling out, hey, is there anybody around? I got some people here. Like, what? Shut up. Right away, let the person, the monster, whatever, they want to not wrap his mouth up. You should be gagging that monster unless you're negotiating. They're taking too long. He can start taunting. He can start yelling out loud. He can start like just giving them hints that there could be a threat coming to them, right? So there's all kinds of ways to manipulate with the monster. So think about those. Taunting, the taunt part, or making comments that make them think about possible threats. Remember, even if he's lying, manipulation causes with little information. Manipulation does this to people. When they have a little bit of information, but not enough to get an answer, they fill the gaps. You could tell your players about the most innocent thing they're coming up on. It's okay, like they're on a mission. Like you see a building down there. There seems to be like some spots dug out, and you give them a little bit of information, which could mean something completely innocent, but not much. I mean, they're just not there to ask what the fucking holes are dug out for. So all the possible innocent stuff is not just 100% clear. Ask your players. Wait 10 minutes and ask your players what they're thinking. It will fucking fuck your head. How many gaps they're filling in, threats coming to them. And that's why an experienced game master will tell you, listen to your players, because sometimes they'll give you ideas. Like, well, I never thought of threatening them with that, but sure, fucking I'll put that down there. Like, that's why game masters will tell you to listen to the players. But how do you get players to think like that? A little bit of information. This is because you're a game master. Manipulation is your gimmick. It's your tool. The less information people have, the more they fill in gaps in. So they'll fill in with assumptions. This is where you get these ideas, right? No shortage of killer rabbits and bunnies and burrows. No doubt Bruce Lee inspired the deadly art of bun fu. So all that stuff is really good Black Rose. If they are negotiating, have the guy taunt or make certain comments that make them think, or maybe he'll start yelling for some trouble, right? Or an off-distance noise. Do you think the internet, especially social media, has hurt or helped the hobby? I haven't decided on the answer yet. As popular as the internet is, I still have to explain what the hobby is in real life. In ways it's hurt, in ways it's helped. So the tribalism, the content creators and competing for popularity, that happens more here than anything in real life in that way. Like competition between like people, the content creation, you get your tribes. So that hurts, because I remember when I first got on, and before YouTube, before Facebook, when I first got on with OpenRPG, I could fill up a game in 10 minutes. I could say I'm running a second edition game and be on OpenRPG or even Merc. There were thousands, if not hundreds of guys there. I could fill it up in 10, 20 minutes. I could do that for years, consistently fill up games for years. No problem. Breathing here. That's how quick you could fill up a game. And you'd have fucking guys. I remember on OpenRPG, you could have 50 guys in the room. I'd have 50 people in the room. And it'd be like the first guys that could open their mouth were going to get their opportunity, right? If I was offering a new game. Now, you got people going into their tribes. Because you have less open talk like that, where people attack each other and there's ego-driven stuff, it's less people are going to be in the same zones to even talk to each other. So you get this shyness, and the shyness already exists in the hobby as it is. Usually in person, I can see a shy fellow nerd, and I can just go talk to them. Like, oh, they see my thing. Oh, you're looking over here? Oh, hey man, you want to know what this is? And they'll be nervous, but now I'm going to break the ice. Now I've said something, so they'll feel like, oh, okay. And then I'll talk. I'm cool, right? But it's not so simple to break the ice with people that are shy with you on here. So it's like I can say to people all day in a video, hey, fucking connect with me. Make a comment. If you want to play second edition, talk to me. And then I'll hear, well, you're failing to recruit. Almost every fucking guy out here is failing to recruit in some cases, right? Especially with old school. If you don't, you'll hear this from guys that are doing the YouTube stuff. And I'm like, look, here's what happens with you guys. You go on panels together, you do your YouTube content together, and then after a while you game together. If most of the people in the hobby were that confident, it'd be that easy. And if most people were doing content together, it'd be that easy. Be lucky you got that going on, but get your head out of your fucking ass. If you're comparing it to me trying to talk to someone who doesn't do that, a normal shy nerd, right? Under the conditions, it's a little hard. And then you have your tribes. Well, I said something about the guy he likes, so now he won't talk to me, or vice versa. There's all this tribal shit that happens, right? So if he's not in my group, he won't talk to me. Or even worse, because some people don't like certain people, well, can't be seen talking to you or people will get after me. Fuck off. We're going to game together. What the fuck is this shit? Right? That would never happen before. That's an online thing. But, well, to Adventure Time. Here's where I would say it's good, Adam. Let's be honest. It's nice for a lot of guys that could not get games to at least have an opportunity. And I'm not talking about so much now as I talk about the early years of the internet, especially with Open RPG and Merc before all this. It's nice that a lot of guys they probably game more on here than they have in person. But the fact they even had opportunities to finally be in a full group with DMs and have that gaming experience on here, I think that's been a good thing. It's nice to be able to game with someone in a different nation. I'm a Canadian, so I grew up playing with Canadians, right? It's nice to get on here and play with Americans and even connecting as a YouTuber, connecting with people from Norway like Philo and Black Rose, Craig from Wales. I mean, I can't be without these connections now, right? It's something we didn't even have an option before. Now I would hate to even lose the option, right? And to be able to game with people from different places, Japan, all this type of shit. There's definitely benefits, but the benefits come with the negative. So that's where I think I fall at them. I think you'll end up coming out the same end. Like there are the benefits. What I'm saying should make sense to you that's good. People that don't have opportunities to game can now game and connect with people. Being able to connect with people in different nations, different places, different mindsets. Very interesting. It's a valuable, good thing. It's a good thing. But the tribalism with the content stuff and all that, that's really bad. So it's a good and a bad, right? I would admit to playing TTRPGs on a job application. Or wouldn't admit to playing TTRPGs on a job application. It depends on the job. Especially in 2026 nowadays, if you say you play role-playing games, a lot of places would probably hire you. So it really depends on the job. That's what I would say, Craig. But I would imagine there's a lot of, in Wales, especially back in the day, you would have been looking for certain jobs. Yeah, I mean, we're nerds. At one point, this was not what it was. You get picked on. You're not popular. You're antisocial. You might be awkward and uncomfortable. Like there might be so many assumptions that would come with saying, I played Dungeons and Dragons or something like that, where you'd be like, okay, I just want a normal social person. I'm going to send you home so you don't do something weird. Now I think in 2026 it'd be just a completely different experience. Most places wouldn't see it the same way because now it's popular, now it's commercial, now is what it is. Back in the day, though, you would have probably got a few funny looks if you put that on your job application. So there, Adam, that's my take on the online and offline thing. I think I just wish we can get rid of the tribalism and the arguing and the egotistic stuff and the I need to attack him to boost myself up. Or even worse, I don't mind that so much. What sucks, what I really don't like is, okay, you don't like me, but I'm going to interview a guy. Why are you giving him heat? Or I'm going to play a game with a guy. Why are you giving him heat? We're going to play a game together. This is what we do in the hobby. It's a social hobby. I mean, we can't game together without you shitting on the guy. That's childish and stupid. You can't stream with certain people and talk about games. Like, grow the fuck up. That's one of the most pathetic things I see with people on here. It's like, hey, dude, if you don't want to watch at night, don't watch, but don't make it that people can't fucking speak to each other. That's pathetic. Stop playing and stop looking at everything like a soap opera. Everyone on here, even the biggest assholes on here, are just like maybe assholes, but they're not like super villains. We don't got to treat people like they're fucking characters all the time, right? That's just crazy. Definitely depends on the job. I got hired as part-time in youth club. Yeah, oh yeah, you do for the kids and the GM coach for the adults. I think you told me a bit about this, that you run for the kids. Yes. So for socializing, especially now, but who knows how that would have looked at like 20 years ago, right? But let's talk about some stuff here. Here's an interesting one for travel. Twilight 2000. I would say one of the best travel survival RPGs ever made. It's an argument for me. The game that took place after the nuclear war in the collapsing Europe. This will relate to people that are on my stream right now. Travel meant fuel scarcity, scavenging, vehicle maintenance, road danger, navigation, avoiding hostile forces, starvation, ammunition conservation. Moving across the world was dangerous and exhausting. A tank with no fuel can become a tomb. A vehicle breaking down could destroy an entire campaign. That's how damaging this could be for travel. The road itself became survival gameplay. This is one of the earliest RPGs to make a post-apocalyptic travel logistics a core experience of the game. So traveling in that game in Twilight 2000 was major. Oh, nerd cliques are alive and well here. They want revenge for high school. I hear that. But there's an interesting travel. When talk about travel, Twilight 2000 makes travel just such a major part of the game, because like what they're saying, like a car breaks down, you can't go any further. Well, you can't, like if you get out and walk, you're likely to die. Like it's post-apocalyptic, like walking is not really an option, so you need the travel. So if your car breaks down, that could be the end of the campaign, right? Or having a tank where you think it's a tank is great, but what if you run out of fuel? Now you got the place where you can just die. So all that stuff, scavenging is a huge part of the game. So travel, and it's travel with scavenging. So a major part of the game is you have to travel to scavenge, and you're only going to be able to scavenge so much. So scavenging and travel is Twilight 2000. Very, very focused on travel as a major portion of the game. It's one thing to think hex crawl. It's another thing to hear my explanation for Twilight 2000 and go, oh yeah, that's actually interesting. Can be surprised at how many previous job were players and GMs. It's not like before. Many young people today play TTRPGs more than I believed. They really do. But here's why. When I was young, you'd be the nerd that would get dirt kicked in your face. Now it's in. I remember seeing guys get beat up for like, they'd be in junior high and they got like Batman, Superman cards, and the older guys would beat them up. Now it's in. Now the cool guy thinks it's okay that you got, or he might even have Batman and Superman cards. And the reason why he'll have it without any shame, it's no longer connected to somebody just because they're like, it means you're weak. Now it's okay to like the nerdy stuff. And the cool guys now, especially older in their 20s and that, they like this stuff openly. So it's socially, it's an in thing. That's what you guys are encountering now. It's socially an in thing. There's movies. It's accepted as popular. And guess what? there are attractive girls playing the D&D, lots of attractive women. You know what I mean? So you're looking at something you wouldn't cut yourself off from. Now it's cool to do this. That's why socially everyone accepts doing it. But it's the same thing with video games. All this stuff that used to be stuff that a lot of us here, older guys, go back, 30 or so years in our life, and you be laughed at for playing, a Super Mario game or having your Batman cards or saying you played D&D. We know what that was like, some of us, right? Now it's in. Like, it's so socially in, it's silly. I had dirt kicked in my face for the D&D stuff. Where I live, most of us, military officers, specialists, some athletes, king of people, nobody bullied us. It wasn't that I was outright bullied all the time, but it happened. And I was in a military group too that made it more acceptable for me to do the stuff at one point. But I remember guys finding out that I played D&D, and I got my ass kicked by a group of people more than once over that whole issue. That's a real thing. I really went through it. I don't know how other people went through it, but I've talked to some people who are around my age or a little older, and they went through similar stuff. It's not in every place, I would imagine. So I'm not saying that story has to be true everywhere, but did it happen? Yes. Did it happen to more than just me? Definitely. But even back then, it wasn't, even if you didn't get beat up in a certain area, it just wasn't, nobody cared for it. It wasn't like an end thing like, oh, it's cool that you play D&D, I'll hire you for the job, you're fine. But now it's in. Now it's in, like video games are in. Nerd culture is a huge thing. Nerd culture is sort of like common culture now. And think about it. Everybody's just, nerd culture is taken over. It's not even, I can't even call it nerd culture anymore. It's what we used to call nerd culture. Nerd culture is now, because now, like, look at the superhero movies. That's nerd stuff. That's what we were into. Everyone's into the movies now. The Supermans, to this, to that. Everything we used to claim as nerds is now considered popular for everyone. You can't get around that. I played football in high school and college and played in rock metal bands. Had long hair, dated cheerleaders. Nobody picked on me. Oh, I had my good connections too, but you get to a certain point. Now, I wasn't a football guy, but you get certain people that definitely, like, if you're fucking smarter than them, you fucking outmaneuver them. You do a lot of things. What changed it for me was when I started selling drugs. That totally changed. Nobody touched me after that. I started selling drugs for people. I won't say who. We'll leave it at that. But those people made sure they were seen with me, and nobody fucking wanted to look at me then. I dated all the girls after people seeing me with who I was seen with, right? It's not all the time, Adam. That's not totally true at all. So it's like if you went and showed you were a very intelligent guy, that's a good thing. You're gonna have a good future. Like Steve Jobs is the type of guy that would get beat up. So to say he just looks pathetic is to sit there and not get it. It's not how you present yourself. Sometimes it's on the other people, and you got to realize that. Nothing wrong with making sure you're the fucking smartest guy. You dress fucking well. You got your shit together, and you don't put up with people's shit. I didn't put up with people's shit, so I'd say something back to them. Well, they'd have to pound my fucking head in because I wasn't a fucking pussy, right? But it's not like I can take on 6 guys by myself. So 6 guys from the football team all decide no matter how I fucking carry myself, they want to kick my ass because I play D&D. That's how that's going to go down. And for a lot of guys, that's what it went down. So saying somebody didn't carry themselves right in that situation, and that's the 99% of the situation that you're happening. No, Adam, complete opposite story. Sorry, dude, you're wrong on that one. I mean, so completely wrong. And if you're on the other end of it, you would know that right away. So I actually had a few fights where I actually won quite a few fights. But when you get certain guys that be like, well, we're 6 big fucking guys and we don't like how you fucking talk back to us and didn't put up with your shit. Now we're going to kick your ass because you play D&D. That's usually it, right? Oh, gee, I wish it wasn't like everyone was like that. But you had your show-offs. You had guys that like to show off. So, like, put it this way. It took years before I met, like, I went to some places where you'd meet the bigger jock guys or whoever that were cool guys, nice guys. And sometimes you run into the assholes. And if you get to sports, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you come up to sports, you come from a school where you, the guy who's playing in the sport, you're cool. Your teammates were cool. But you'll meet other athletes from other schools, from other places. And those guys will be assholes. And you'll be playing the game with them. But it's like, okay, if they're like that, it means not every place was like that. But so if it depends on where you are and then who you run into. So it's not like it's a guaranteed same story for every place. So I always tell people, never take your own individual experience and assume some truth to it everywhere. And it's like me getting beat up where I carry myself well, I dress well, I'm a fucking super intelligent guy. I get to some fights where I can kick some people's asses. But you want to know what? I don't put up with shit. And even if 6 guys want to come across and start talking shit to me, oh yeah, you fucking nerd loser. Well, how about you suck my fucking dick? Well, they weren't happy about that. So nerd loser got his ass kicked. Right? Did I carry myself like a pathetic loser? Nope. Just didn't put up with shit. They decided they wanted to call me a fucking nerd. Got my ass kicked because I said suck my fucking dick. I couldn't fight all 6 of them by myself. Just sort of fucking happens, right? So if you tell me I have failed at like carrying myself right, I don't get the story there. All right. I think I carried myself just fine. But if guys want to prove a point, you can't get around it. And there was a lot of these fucking dicks you run into when you went to school, depending on where you were, right? And a lot of dicks like to make a point, and they'll pick on some weaker person. They call you a name, you don't put up with it. Now, most of the time, you don't get too much abuse because it's not like a fucking TV or made for TV special movie or something. You're not always getting your head shoved in the fucking toilet. But were there assholes around like that could physically bully other people, no matter how well they carried themselves? Like, well, that small guy dresses pretty well. He fucking has his shit together. But guess what? The fucking cunt down there doesn't like him. Talks some shit, wants to bully him so he can fucking lift himself up. And there's not much that guy can kick his ass. What is he supposed to do? In the fucking bathroom getting his ass kicked. Is it his fault he's getting his ass kicked? He's dressed well, carried himself well, fucking wise and intelligent. Are you going to say it's him and the way he represented himself that got his ass kicked? Or maybe it was a jackass that was doing it because that jackass dresses like a fucking scumbag, walks around with a fucking ego, walks around with a fucking nose up in the air. Maybe the problem is on the end of the dick doing the fucking beating up of the smaller guy who can carry himself. Right? Just say. I'm sure it's different elsewhere, but Brexit was the only beginning of social decline in the UK. To describe its disaster would be, like, I gotta watch. To describe a disaster would be understatement. Yeah. And you want to talk about people getting beat up in schools nowadays, like we're you know what, even my getting my ass kicked is pretty tame. Have you guys seen the viral videos of fucking violence in schools now? Jeez, it wasn't as bad, but shit happened. No, but I get what you're saying, Adam. But I mean, that's what my story is true for a lot of guys. So it's when you said that, I only take it as most of the guys I've ever talked to that have a similar experience. It's not like they carry themselves any different way, but you run to people that are going to be dicks. Like, I mean, are you going to have people beating you up over playing a tabletop role playing game if they're nice people? Like, what, you went in? It's not like you're going to go be a dick to people if you're the guy playing the game. You know what I mean? To get your ass kicked. So it's most likely the issue is going to be on the other end, right? That's all I'm saying. And most guys I knew, I mean, there's how you're supposed to dress other than dressing nice. Right? I was assaulted 4 times during lockdown while traveling home from work, and 3 more occasions since. Yeah, that's starting to happen in Canada too. Places in Canada you can go, depends on where you are. You don't want to walk outside. We know some of the fucking crazy stories. It's crazy these days in school. My eldest daughter is 8, and there are lots of violence and bad behavior with kids nowadays. They go crazy. Very little discipline because I think it's you get a lot of people that just didn't, I don't know, they don't know how to be parents or adults, right? And just tame their kids. No, geez, the UK right now is probably a rotten place for some things. For some things, not all things. And it's what they're teaching you too. Like they open the door like, you got to be nice to your kids. You got to be this. Like when we were all young, the reason there was like, I might have got my ass kicked by some jocks, but that wasn't so bad. It's not as bad as what you see today. The reason there was a lot less of that when we were young is our parents would mostly kick our asses for behaving poorly. Like our parents weren't like fucking nice people about it. Like you're stupid, you're getting upside the fucking head. And they say, well, that's violence, that's bad. I'm like, yeah, but that's the difference between the kid acting up and the kid not acting up. See, we come from a timeline where we understood that. Like your parents would kick your parents would fucking beat your ass for fucking misbehaving. So you don't bother misbehaving because you've learned to adjust your attitude. If you know this is going to happen, you adjust, and you don't take that with you to a school, for example. If your parents baby you because they're told if they raise their hand, they're fucking bad people. Okay, though there goes that's called discipline. And sorry to say that they'll be like, that's abuse. Well, there is a balance between abuse and discipline. There's no doubt. But to cut off proper discipline for the sake of avoiding abuse is the stupid move. That's what I would say. Because if you don't put discipline in there, well, then it's simple. Your kids aren't disciplined. So they take it to school and they get violent. That's it. But and you learn that from your father. He's going to be strict in the house. That's proper discipline. So if it's not saying every jock or every football guy was bad or something where I had that example, but it's just like it depends on the parents and discipline. And if you meet up with the dillhole who just doesn't have the discipline, you pay a price, right? Now, I know, I want you guys to know, I don't mind this conversation at all. This is off script night. Most of the streams are meant to just be tabletop role playing games, but this is off script night. That's why Black Rose had made a comment there, I don't know, a week or so ago, where I think we were talking about some other topic. And he's like, well, I think you made some hint there, Black Rose, but is that part of the game or something? Like you're sort of these nights, I don't mind going casual. It's just you guys, as long as you know safely. If I'm doing game, like if I'm covering a game on the stream here, we're talking about games that night, right? Off script, I'll come in with some idea. I think we've talked well over an hour about gaming, so it doesn't hurt to talk about other topics. Kids are not included into society. In past, people started working younger, got into contact with older people, made money, learned responsibility, had proper discipline, had a boss, had people, the older adults tell them, oh, you got to do this and act right, even if it wasn't hitting. But you get what I'm saying? Like it's either mental or physical. But the point is there's discipline, right? Well, that's cool. It's just it's a chance for us to go off script. That's the whole point of just being able to jump into stuff like this, right? But yeah, I find that it's Philo. You're not wrong. You're completely on point. I don't think all discipline is just physical. I just think there's a mix of spank your ass or verbally put you in your place, right? My long beard had to go. I remember a guy, like I shaved recently, but I remember this guy because I had facial hair by the time I was later in junior high. A guy would grab and pull me down like that. I hated it. But now this just shaved tonight, so I think it's pretty good. My stuff grows in so fast. I don't bother this clean shave because it'll fucking just it goes. My facial hair just comes so in so fast. I just get a line and go with it. Keep it short as it can be for a period of time. For sure. I had my first work at age 13 delivering newspapers. Yep, I hear that. You're rewarded, but you also get into authority too. Now you're making money. Now you have a boss. Now you're listening to someone tell you what to do. I have to say, your presence vibe or is so different tonight. Not a negative at all, but something I picked up on. It depends, man. Like, yeah, I think I'm like everybody. Some subjects I can be aggressive on. Some subjects I can be just matter of fact on. Some subjects I'm just casual on. Something I might be passionate about will be very straightforward with you. Oh yeah, Black Rose got it. It's my sitting down casualness. There you go. If I'm up performing, I'm on go. Yeah, that's it. I never bother getting like I'll shave it down, but I never go with the clean line because this thing just fucking comes in on me so quick. Yeah, sitting down is one of these casual things. And Adam, if you get a chance, I don't know if you checked out the interviews. I think you probably have, but if you check out the interviews, I'm pretty laid back on the interviews too. But I don't talk that much either. So there you go. Most of the guys don't get to see me. That's why when I do my videos, that's a different side of me. That's why I hate getting judged by my videos all the time. I'm like, people watch my videos. I'm like, I'm in complete performance mode when I do a video. Like here, you get to shoot the shit with me, right? But if I'm doing a video, I'm performing. I'm an entertainer. I understand that's part of what I'm doing as a YouTuber. But when we like on this type of night, this is the type of, hey, what's it like to sit around with Steven and shoot the shit? This is sitting around with Steven and shooting shit. Right? I can shoot the shit. Do I do a lot of casual Discord shoot the shit talks on here? No. But if my supporters, if it's beneficial to hear, I do. What I don't like doing is, here's what I don't like seeing other YouTubers do. It's they'll bring on people on a panel and they all sit down to have a Discord chat. And most of like you guys, like people on the chat are mostly ignored. And they're doing the Discord chat as a way of doing content to grow. Right? Where I'm here shooting the shit with my supporters, right? The people that give me support and shooting the shit and making you guys part of the stars of the show. I'm not on here with a panel, mostly ignoring you. And the only time I sort of get away from interacting with a lot of what people are saying in chat is when I'm doing interviews, right? But then that's still about entertaining you. But outside of that, when I do casual, instead of bringing on a panel and making that the casual Discord chat, shoot the shit, I make the focus on you guys, right? Where a lot of the other channels I see, they do it casually, almost to replace the fact they're never performing at all. They're always doing casual chit chat, but they're chit chatting and not really involving the people that support them, right? I thought you did very well on the interviews. I listened to them at 5 a.m. during. Oh, I do appreciate that. Yeah, you don't get to be a genius. You just gotta. To me, it's asking the right questions, making sure that you're. I don't do like these aren't interviews to get you or gotcha interviews. These are introducing people to you so you can get to know them. That's the point. And it's meant to be partly entertainment and get to know somebody. I'm not doing Larry King gotcha interviews. And it's about really, what I do is focus on having the right questions to help them talk. So I go, well, there's some guys I listen to I think are boring on YouTube and that. But I'm like, give me that guy for an interview. Because if you give him, if he comes on for an interview, I'll ask him the right questions that I'll get him to talk the entire time. And I'll direct what he's going to talk about. And I'll keep it interesting by asking him questions that gets him to talk in a certain way about certain things. So I keep them on track. I keep them on track on topics. And I'm doing that on purpose. I hope people do notice that. That is completely intentional. I do design the interviews. I literally purposely start. I ask questions to get specific, to get them talking. So I keep them talking and keep them on a line. And I don't let casual, if you notice, it doesn't just get chit chat. It's here's a question. Let's dig into it. But it never turns into off topic. It's close to the end of what they have to say. Next question's coming, right? Never had any problems while my Here was dreadlocks, but that was before Brexit. White lines, mania had a thing. Well, you guys see me with short hair now. I've had my hair buzzed a few times, like my head buzzed down. In life, for long periods of time, I had long hair, long hippie hair, right? Um, Actually, the last so many years, I've had hippie hair. It's only recently I finally got my hair cut. It's funny. That was I'm going to bring this up because I do find it funny. Still find it funny. I don't care. It's that one fake image they brought up of me saying, "You attacked this girl." I'm like, "Oh, you mean the woman?" Yeah. Well, I talked to her when I had long hair, and the image is of me with the short hair. I'm like, guys, jeez, you should have paid attention. I had long hair when I talked to her. It was the short hair was only recent. You fucking dillholes. Once you get people talking, it's much easier to direct them on topic. It is with the right questions. You just got to have you got to have a lineup of questions. I never get through all the questions, but I tried to make sure to have my goal is always 15 or more. 15 or more. But on occasions, I had 14 with Bloodworth, but I felt like we got enough out of that. And I don't expect to ask them all, but I just want to make sure that I have questions all the way through. Because they're on for an interview, and I do want it to be a bit more professional than chit-chatting. I don't want it to be Discord chat, and I wanted to do that on purpose because I want game designers to come on and know they're having a real sort of professional style interview. But it's good for you guys because for me to make sure that it's organized like that, it means it doesn't just drag. The entire talk gets worthwhile information right up into the end. So to me, there's no drag on the talk, right? That's really important. So doing it in a more professional way, and outside of doing something like this with you guys, I take doing YouTube as a performer. Like I don't need to chit chat. Like some of the other guys only do this chit chatting stuff because they can't perform. I actually can, so I don't got to do that. That's why I don't really worry about that. But I like doing this for my audience. So my hair has buzzed now because otherwise I'd have horseshoe cancer kill my rock star here. Well, I hope you're doing good now, Adam. But yeah, the buzz thing, I've done that a few times in life where it was just easier to get by for periods of time. You're not going to brush your hair all the fucking time or anything. Though I won't tell you guys that my hair is combed over for a reason. Don't fucking call me out on this later. I'm not going to keep bringing that up. It's the reason I comb my hair over, but we'll leave it at that. Oh, I'll give you the hint, guys. Up here, my age shows. Like it's combed over right now, but if I properly parted my hair and all that, you notice I'm balding up in the middle. I've always had long hair, so when I shaved my hair last time, it started going back in. It's like, I knew this was happening already, but it's just fucking. So I got to comb it over just to look normal. God, I hate turning a 2-hour stream into bullshit around for 45 minutes talking about their weekend. If it's all the time, like this is my supporters getting this type of time. Yeah, so I'm taking care of you guys, right? But if I want to go have a Discord chat with people that are on a panel, I don't try to do that and like try to replace the fact that I can't perform. Like to me, it's an opinion thing. I think anybody can come at YouTube whatever way they want. It's just an opinion thing. I think if you're the guy on the screen, the character, because you're going to be treated like a character. If you're going to be an entertainer here, you got to be able to perform. You got to be able to be an entertainer. You gotta want to do this. Like even if I have a small following right now, I want to do professional interviews, right? And I mean, it's a you never know thing. I don't have a stupid expectation that someday I'll be up here, but it's like one thing where it's like, well, if I ever get to the certain point, I want to be able to be that. And for you to be that, you got to be able to do that thing. So to me, I take the interview serious and do them professional. And also, I wanted to attract people because a smooth conversation where people feel like I'm asking the right questions to get them to talk the entire time. People that are a little weirded out about this stuff, especially more like game designers and that want something a little bit more professional. They want that. They actually want that. I want them to see interviews where I actually take that serious. There's no gotcha. They're treated well. I ask questions that are going to get the information out. I'm not asking some stranger who makes the game to come on and shoot the shit with me like a friend, right? Nor would they be expecting to do that, right? Oh, it was supposed to be a certain topic. Like, yeah, off script is the freehand thing. And I did a good, there's a little bit of a topic I talked about tonight, but it's mostly off script. But I did a good hour or so of that. Really drove on the pacing and the travel quite a bit. I mean, I can mention some more stuff at one point. String's not over. Not done at all. I mean, if everybody abandoned me all at once, I'd be like, well, I guess it's over for the night if you're all ready to go right away, right? Tomorrow night is going to be my first members only, so I don't want to overdrill the people that aren't members, right? But I do want the member thing to be attractive to people. I do want it to be worthwhile. I don't want it to just be like, it's nice that you're members, but I don't do anything based on you giving me something for that. So tomorrow night is as Black Rose and Craig knows, Savage Worlds. And it's the members only is the exception where I'll cover games that are past the year 1999. And the next members only, Craig and Black Rose, is Babylon 5, the role-playing game. I've already got it scheduled. And Craig can go check. Fudge has been scheduled too. Fudge. And Metamorphosis Alpha has also been scheduled. But Fudge has been scheduled, just like I said, that Saturday thing. But tomorrow's members only is Savage Worlds. The next members only is Babylon 5, the role-playing game. I don't know if you guys have already tried Babylon 5 or if you're fans of the show or whatever, but I know we're all nerds here, so I figured Craig and you might be, well, that has a role-playing game. I'm next members only. It's scheduled already. Is Babylon 5 the role-playing game? So if you haven't heard about that game or know about it, you're going to appreciate it. I have a feeling Craig will because it's space shit. Let's talk about AI and how we can improve our prepping with AI. I use AI for generating character portraits, some background scenes. I see. Here's when you talk about AI, you got to remember there's a part of people that I just say to them, if it's for gaming, relax. If it's for the money stuff, I totally get it, right? Terra Incognita to me. Well, it's gonna be. I think you'll like it. Babylon 5. As far as generating for Game Master stuff, the only thing I would say is this. I would say this to any Game Master, and players might expect this of you. There should be a hint of an idea that you have that you're putting into the generation. So if you go in and go, just make an NPC for me, it makes an NPC for you. No, it should be something where you have an idea and then you maybe get the AI to enhance what you're doing. Same thing with background scenes. Have a concept, within the prop or something, I guess you would say. I'm just learning. I barely know about the props that well. I don't know much about AI because I don't actually do this generating stuff with the AI. I've only learned about the props with the Horde Wars bullshit because I went to do the editing on that to clean up the fucking typing stuff. It ended up giving me back shit. Stuff I didn't even notice. And I don't notice the check. Every time I went to do a clean, it cleans it up for me. So I didn't expect it to start filling gaps and change my entire script. And then went on and the character creation part was proper, but the how to run it had some of the same advice, but it mixed all this other stuff in that didn't match, right? So I go read it thinking, oh, well, I've only done this. I played it, but I never ran it. So one of my friends helped me write the whole Game Master part. So I thought it was proper. When I went to the setting, just you go into machine mode. I did it at night, went back and checked and realized my friend comes over and says, I said, what happened here, man? Why did this fuck this whole thing up? He's like, let me check out what you said. He's like, you didn't prompt it right. It's like, prompt. He's like, yeah, you got to prompt it because I don't use AI. I really don't. People think, well, people accuse me of it, but I don't. So I've only learned about the prompting recently, and that if you say, and like, the only thing I would say is fix typos. Like, I never used even the lingo, right? I never used prompt in my head. I just said, could you fix typos and misspelled words? Not grammar, just typos and misspelled words. And it would fix, it would take care and clean the stuff up for me. Every time I was going to do my thing, it would do that no problem, right? And I basically, I guess I must have worded it wrong. And when you word it in any certain way, what I didn't know what this thing does, I didn't know the AI does this, it fills gaps in on its own. It assumes stuff. I'm like, dude, it's a direct order. I just want you to fucking fix bad words. If I misspelled a word, fix it for me. That's all. I don't got time for it. I'm working. So I get all these scripts ready, go get the work done. Didn't know, oh, if you put it into fills gaps in. Completely learned. My friend laughed at me. He's like, I fucking believe you because I know you're fucking stupid when it comes to fucking programming and tech shit. I was actually happy when I heard the canceled TV series on Conan the Barbarian. I was forced to stop watching modern TV shows. Canceled TV on Conan the Barbarian because I know they would ruin it the way they did Rings of Power. Rings of Power was fucking awful. It's like comedy. There's a certain type of comedy that I find not funny, and you can tell why it's not funny. Comedy is supposed to, if it's towards the truth, it will be funny. If comedy or your attempt at comedy is to cover up the truth, it goes away from being funny. So if you see somebody out there trying to be funny and they're not, sometimes it's because they're not matching reality. Truth will be relatable in a way that makes your funny funnier. Oh, that's the thing. Jesus Christ. And people out there with money, it will be like a small percentage. It'll be like fucking, and there's a lot of people, don't get it wrong, but say like 8% of people can afford to really put money towards like I'm in Canada, so money's tight. They'll be like, yeah, well, man, I paid $3,000 for this piece of art. Got these couple pieces done. I'm like, dude, I don't got 3,000 put aside. My money's gone before I get it. And well, now I'm saving up money. Now it's a little bit different. A little bit. Slightly a bit different. But I got out of a 14-year relationship in debt. So I was in a lot of debt, and it took me a few years to get out of the debt. So the whole time I'm paying bills, paying the debt off, it's just like I had no money. People are like, why don't you just get this art? I'm like, dude, I got no money. I got no money for it at all. I just had no money coming in, like no money besides what I was paying out. That was it. If anyone was unlucky enough to see Doctor Who 2006, where I live, the best thing was seeing TARDIS Park on the film location. I did, I'll be honest, guilty as charged. I like the new stuff with David Tennant, the guy right after him, and the guy before him. I didn't like Peter. Sorry. I really didn't like the woman. But it's not because I didn't like, because it was a woman. It's just bad writing. And of course, the message. And the new guy, I mean, I never even checked it out. I heard everyone say it was just like really, really, really bad. Really bad. But I was like, the writing was anything like the woman. I tried to watch one episode of her. It's like, that's not even Doctor Who. What kind of character is this? It's a stand-in for Doctor Who. And of course, with the woman storyline, they destroyed the entire backstory Doctor Who, so that was quite disappointing. And I warned them they were going to do that. I said, I was saying to people that didn't like the show, you should not be watching it. And I said the guys on YouTube should not be reviewing this thing. And because I said the haters are going to put the ranking, get the numbers up and keep watching it because they're doing it to hate it. I said it's the worst thing you could do. I said I would abandon the show completely so they might consider actually canceling it. I kept saying, if you let that play out, something bad's going to happen. Well, I actually put out probably like 40 comments saying this, and people were like, "Oh, come on, man, it can't be that bad." I'm like, "It's some bad's going to happen if you." I said, "Your ratings, your hate watching is going to be the reason that show continues on." Well, they got enough ratings, and they go on to the next season, and finally, by the end of it, they go into by the end of that whole show, they destroy the whole backstory, Doctor Who. I was like, "There's your mystery gone. Everything we know about Doctor Who is completely gone, dead." And then with the last Doctor Who, I mean, you've already destroyed the character, and now you're just doing politics. Sorry to say, it's all politics at the end, and the whole character, that last character, was based on politics. I'm like, you didn't even write him like Doctor Who. You didn't write her like Doctor Who. Doctor Who's a specific character. There's certain cool things about it, and you can't get around the coolness of Doctor Who. I actually like Doctor Who, so just saying. And I did like the new stuff because I won't lie to you guys. I never watched Doctor Who. Now, Craig is an exception. Craig is a guy from there. He probably watched some of the older Doctor Who, really appreciates it. I only got into Doctor Who when that new guy started up probably around the 2006 thing he's talking about. And I liked him. I liked, actually, I was sad that they ended him so early. And then they went into Dave Tennant, which I know Dave Tennant could be a dick about some things, but I thought Dave Tennant was fucking brilliant as Doctor Who. I liked him. I liked him personally. And I liked the guy that followed. I didn't mind him. He's done, I forget his name, but he's done some of the Game of Thrones dragon thing where he's like sort of one of the hit characters in that. Now, here's what, how Black Rose did not watch Star Trek, and he was like, don't hold it against me. Other than skimming some Game of Thrones stuff, I never watched Game of Thrones. And what I did see, I didn't like. Like, I skimmed scenes of it, didn't like it. Didn't like what I was saying. Seems fucking boring to me. So, Game of Thrones never interested me at all. Completely bored of it. I know people talk so highly about the show. Wasn't into it. And I'm so busy with life. Like, I do YouTube and I run games. Like, even the TV shows now, I have a hard time just having time to watch them. Was based on The Complete Enchanter by L. Sprague, DeCamp, and Fletcher Pratt. It's Appendix N. It's in Appendix N. Oh, I remember what the whole story was behind Doctor Who. I like the backstory. I like the original stuff. I never watched Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who. As I said, the Black Rose. I never watched all of Captain Kirk, probably not to this day, but I watched quite a bit of Captain Kirk after so many years. I did watch The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, and those two Star Trek series. That's been my only advice to Black Rose. I said, "If you ever watch any Star Trek?" I said, "If you want to commit, watch those two and watch The Next Generation and then DS9 because they do tie into each other. They even have." There's even like characters that cross over, like those two series are tied to each other. So it's good to watch both to understand the entire thing. Though I didn't like Voyager. I didn't like all the other stuff that followed. Wasn't a big fan of the other stuff. Star Wars, never got into. Didn't watch it in the 80s. Didn't watch the stuff in the 90s. I didn't have the emotional attachment people had to it in the thing. But the reason I didn't watch a lot of these shows is, unlike a lot of guys that tell me they watch the shows, I'm like, all right, how many campaigns did you run with D&D? Like, if I tell them numbers I ran, like, I'm like, all right, dude, I ran tabletop role-playing games. I ran over 10,000 gaming sessions. And in person, I ran for over 2,000 players, not including the altogether thousands of players if you count it online. And people are like, yeah, right. But I'm like, yeah, but I did that, and I didn't watch the shows that you watched. Like, all the stuff you poured your time into, I was actually gaming. Like, that's the reason I didn't watch a lot of this stuff, because I actually gamed. Like, I actually did over 10,000 gaming sessions. People are like, that's a surreal number. Well, I did that in my first. I remember hitting my first 3 years was my goal was to hit 1,000. I did sessions. on purpose, like a fucking machine. And just over time, if you just keep doing it like a fucking machine all the time, you're gonna hit these numbers. It sounds ridiculous until you start meeting other fucking religious fucking guys that just game like machines. They like, yeah, we ran thousands too. I'm like, yeah, I know. Though most guys that you meet that are outside of like maniacs like me, they haven't ran 1,000 sessions in their entire life. But they'll know every, I hate to pick, but they might know Babylon 5, that Black Rose likes. They'll know every Star Trek episode. They'll know every Star Wars thing. They'll know Flash Gordon. They'll know all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you had time to watch it. I was gaming. I watched more stuff as a kid than I did when I started aging. Like I watch, I read some comics. Like I remember watching Ghostbusters, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Transformers. I love Transformers. Uh, yeah, and then after that was a lot of gaming and working, gaming, school and working, like hustling, gaming and working. Like you'd be like, "Did you watch this?" Never had time to, dude. Never had time to. I actually liked actively gaming so much. I'd be gaming, working school, gaming, working school. If the school wasn't going, it'd be like gaming, working, gaming, working, gaming, working. Right? Like I got lucky to go through the Next Generation DS9. And the reason I watched Next Generation just because I just happened to sit through every episode. That was more like accidental that I got through that entire thing. Uh, DS9, what got me hooked on it when I started watching that was I watched it after it already aired on TV, but it was like doing its reruns. I started watching DS9 and I liked I was trying to come up with an idea for Star Trek, a tabletop role playing game. One of my friends said there's this really interesting version of it where they're not like in a space where they're not doing the same thing like the Enterprise. I was like, well, what's that? DS9, and it has some of the characters you like, Stephen, like Worf and all this. So I go watch it, and I realize, holy shit, this is it. This is the tabletop role playing game. If you're going to make a Star Trek tabletop role, I'm like, this is it right here. It has a space station that acts like a fucking little mini planet, like a place, right, for you to do all this stuff. And you have all the different groups. So it's like, this is fucking perfect. Oh, it's my favorite, one of my favorite movies ever. The movie, I know what movie you're talking about. The one where Prime dies, which is big controversy. But I still love Hot Rod. I love the way it played out anyway. Like I have no regrets about. I love that movie. I love that movie. Absolutely love that movie. And it's the first time I got into music and action like being a big thing. And the Ghostbusters did that too. I started liking the Ghostbusters episodes because by the time you get to the ghost part, the music would play. And then when I got into anime later, when I started watching Bleach and Naruto, especially Bleach more, I get into that first. It was the music. It went back to that. The show had perfect music with action. And I just did like, even when I finally went back and watched some of the Power Ranger stuff from the season one, I started realizing I actually liked the show a lot. Power Rangers from the season one though, because they had this brilliant fucking soundtrack and they have brilliant music to go along with the action. And the first time I really got into music and action and noticed how much I loved it was Transformers the movie, because they had these action scenes and the music, and I'm just like, fuck, it drove the whole scene. Like it compared to other things I watch, I never realized just how much I was into it. Like it really drove me. And Bleach was another one. Naruto did pretty good too. I watched the Naruto series, the young one and the Shippuden. When we went through that, it's again, I liked the action because it was the music. You match the music, get the right emotion. I'm in. I'm completely in. It's Bleach and the sword stuff is the inspiration behind my Red Falcons. So I have a group of Red Falcons in the in Skullhorn, and their main soldiers use swords with like intelligent swords with souls in them, right? And they have like powers for these swords, right? Well, the whole thing comes from Bleach. Bleach has the swords with where they have a connection with the swords, where there's like a being in the sword. Well, the Red Falcons, even though they're an evil group, ironically, um, I had this gimmick with them. I had this gimmick with them where their soldiers all have swords that they get. Like after they become Red Falcon soldiers, they get these swords. They go through this process to get these swords, and these swords have intelligence, like a sort of being in them, and the beings give them abilities with the swords. And that's all based off watching Bleach. I won't lie to you. And I was like, I had the Red Falcons for a long time though, so I actually had them before I ever watched the Bleach stuff. But it was after the Bleach came out, I adjusted them over to this whole sword thing. So I was like, yep, okay, I like that gimmick. I'm going with it. So music and action. I mean, it doesn't mean every show I watch needs that, but it does make it something very appealing to me. There's some anime I watch. I wish I could remember the name of it. One I pitched. I'll have to get the name later. I'll even pitch some stuff up. But there's a few. Like there's this one anime I watch where the guy goes around and he's sort of like an investigator. It's not like an action show, but he goes around investigating these sort of like spirits. Like they can do dangerous things. They can be nice. They always come into an area and he goes investigates and they're doing weird shit. And he's always solving the problem there, right? It's sort of like I should remember there's multiple seasons of it. Really good fucking show. Really so fucking good. It's mature too. It's not something you expect to be made for kids. Like it's a show where you think older people would be watching that anime. Like it's such a mature story. There's another one where it's a guy and he's in the future and there's dimensions and all this type of stuff and they get energy through this. But why everyone's in sort of future mode, living in like with androids, robots, and all this, he still lives in a normal house. And everyone has flying cars, but he has like a normal car with wheels. Like he remains living in the 90s sort of like lifestyle, while everyone else is like advanced to this new technology, this new everything. This guy sort of still stays in the past, right? And that's an interesting one. His wife is dead, and he's always like sort of weirdly trying to figure out what happened to his wife, like how she got killed, the answers. That one was good. That was mature storytelling. But I mean, outside of those, I've only watched so many things I get time for. Like people like Babylon 5. Ironically, did the game, never watched the show. That's going to sound bad. How do you do the game without watching the show? Well, you can. It gives you enough information about the show. You can actually do the game pretty well. The game's actually not bad. I actually like the game, to be ironic. I say I never watched the show. I skim the show. This game Friday till Sunday, 4 hour nap. Then during the week it was like lifting and working. At least you're not like the bros, Adam. You're lifting. There's a bunch of guys I find really weird. The bros are guys that they act all fucking high and mighty about the games, but I'm like, well, if I had you, if you came back to what the designers actually expect, none of you can perform at that level. So you talk like you're up here, but you can't run the game like you're up here. You can't even play the game like you're up here. So you should calm down. They're like, we write this whole thing out about it, but I'm like, yeah, I go watch you play and run. You run down here. No attacking you, just being honest, like the majority. You put a little bit more time, I guess, into thinking about it afterwards, but you're not performing up here. If I said, what about performance and travel? How do you guys do travel? The travel stuff I said tonight so far would blow their fucking heads off. They wouldn't know what to do with it. I don't think you'd be disappointed by B5 if you did. No, I bet you I would be into it. I just never. It's one of those things where I'm letting you guys know. Ironically, I've done the game. I never watch the show. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's like I watch a little bit of the Stargate too. See, I take mine seriously, but in a way, I take my game more seriously than they take theirs. Because what I'm saying, Adam, is they take it seriously socially, but they can't perform here. which is what the game designer expects you to be performing here. They perform here. So it's like, dude, your performance with the game mastering stuff should be up here if you're going to talk the way you do. Just saying. Just saying. The only other game for traveling where you might really want to watch what you're doing is especially Bushido, because when you travel, you should be meeting people, because it's not like D&D where you're going to meet monsters and you're going to see people on the road. Your game master has to make sure you're probably going to interact with some of them, and you got to watch what you say. Gamma World was interesting. Gamma World travel and exploration was central to discovering the setting. So this one is a good example of lore dumping through it. Players wanted ruined civilizations, mutated wastelands, dangerous unknown territory, uh, ancient technological ruins. So these are all things you should be expected to be letting them see, because this is about a bit of lore dumping being important. The world constantly rewarded exploration, so it expects you to do a lot of it. So the idea that you're always going to be prepping all this stuff is impossible. What they do is they give you the tools to improvise a lot, or it's not always combat, or not even always weather things, like I was talking earlier with Philo. It can be where it's just you're going to go to an area and read a plaque, or you're going to learn something about that. So travel often meant uncovering lost knowledge, bizarre artifacts, strange post-apocalyptic societies. Movement through the wasteland was the adventure. It wasn't just the adventure; it almost became like life in Gamma World. See, details do I have for pacing? Like pacing isn't just about scenes either. It can just pacing can mean like the overall game. Here's a good one. Pendragon, one of the most unique campaigns pacing structures ever designed. One of the unique campaign pacing structures ever designed. The game revolves around yearly cycles, seasonal progression, aging, inheritance, generational play. Its famous winter phase handled estate management, childbirth, recovery, aging, training, random life events. A single session could jump months, seasons, or even entire years. The campaign rhythm became adventure, winter, aging, legacy. Very few RPGs before or after handled time this way. The game was concerned with the pace of the entire lifetime, not merely the next dungeon. So if you think one-to-one timing is going to be interesting, or you think that's challenging, shit, try to do Pendragon for a while. That will blow your head up. Metamorphosis Alpha is definitely a travel game too. No surprises. It was so closely related to Gamma World. That's sort of why I was giving you Gamma World. It's definitely lore dumpy. And I get that game coming up. I don't want to say too much about games coming up, but I've mentioned a bit here. Like Ars Magica, one of the smartest long-term pacing systems in RPG history. This one's important. The game divided time into seasons, study periods, magical research, laboratory work, covenant management, adventure phases. Characters frequently spent months, years, or entire seasons improving magic rather than adventuring. This created alternating rhythms, bursts of adventures, long periods of study, political maneuvering, magical experimentation. Time itself became a strategic resource. Losing a season mattered. So it just, there's a whole side to focus time like Pendragon. That's why it was worth mentioning that one. Call of Cthulhu is more like just say, talk about Call of Cthulhu randomly. That's more of a game that doesn't focus on pacing as far as moving the game fast forward at all. Actually, the scenes are meant to take your time, think. It's not that you want players like this is where Black Rose was asking me. Sometimes he gets players that will get in a loop and they're stuck and they're talking about nothing, getting nowhere. Call of Cthulhu is interesting because that can happen in Call of Cthulhu. But I mean, you're hoping that the players know they're meant to be getting somewhere, because that's almost the entire game is you talk to people, you got some of your triggers. You can't just make a noise like you're in a dungeon. So there's certain triggers you don't do. You're not just negotiating with monsters, and you got players with their characters trying to figure things out. You can have like small things, like so you can they hear like a car pull off. Look, what's that? Was somebody following us? You can make stuff like that happen, but that is meant to be a little bit of looping around. Like it's okay to slow down pace of the game and scenes with a game like Call of Cthulhu. Like actually, the slower pace is actually to a degree okay. And combat's so rare that really the focus on the interaction and trying to figure it out is the enjoyment. So a little bit of slow down the scene, not slow like they're not talking, but slow as like you don't just speed through a conversation. It's actually part of the game. Like that actually, so you got to enjoy that part of the game as a player. And then that's not really a hurt thing, but it can slow. Like the structure, pacing structure is like mystery, dread, revelation, collapse. And there'll be delays, like delaying horror encounters, monster appearances, full understanding to build tension over time. Right, so it's a much slower game. James Bond, I think, does a pretty good cinematic thing. It's all about action through the chases, uh, through the scenes, like moving scenes along. You're meant to get into talks and like get to the end of the talk, move on to the next scene. You don't get stuck in loops in that game that much. I don't want to talk about Ghostbusters because that's coming up soon. I got some notes for it here, but I don't want to. I just don't want to. Pacing for Twilight was interesting. Twilight 2000 is one I'm going to be covering soon. Pacing emerged directly from survival pressure. Players constantly balance movement, fuel, scavenging, repairs, rest, combat risk, ammunition. The rhythm became move, scavenge, survive, repair, move again. Action was repeatedly interrupted by logistical reality. The pacing intentionally felt exhausting and tense. That's meant you that is meant to be a tedious game of pacing, because you never really have enough. You got to constantly scavenge. You're constantly making sure you don't get a vehicle breaking down. So the taking care of your shit constantly is a big focus of the game. So it's meant to feel like it's slowing you on pace and really putting work on you. So it's like exhausting, intense. That's what it's meant to be if you got a good game master running that right. Here's an interesting one. Amber Diceless role-playing game. Amber changed pacing by removing dice entirely. Without randomizers, scenes flowed continuously. Social tension dominated. So it's like talking all the time. Psychological maneuvering mattered. Interruptions were reduced because you don't have the same type of randomness. The game pacing depended heavily on politics, negotiation. This is character relationship, the talks with characters. This created a very fluid scene structure for their chaos and comedy pacing. To a degree. I don't want to say too much about any of that, right? I got Tune here. Tune. Okay, this is the last one I'll read out for you guys out of the notes I have here. Tune 1984. Tune completely abandoned realistic pacing. So this is a different take. The game followed cartoon logic. gag timing, comedic escalation, instant recovery. Characters could explode, flatten, recover immediately, depending entirely on comedic rhythm. This was radically different from most RPG. Well, it was just radically different from all RPGs at the time. Narrative and narrative tempo was just completely different. It's a toon game. It's just not the same. It's a cartoon gag fest. I wrote down most games. I should say all games. Different from all games. Yeah, Metamorphosis Alpha. I say I go agree with you on the Gamma World thing. But it's like I was telling Philo earlier. A lot of games, there's what you do, but when I talk about what the game designer wants, the reason they want all this random stuff in, that there's no way you could prep it all, is for feel. But that's why if you really read the material for the games, you'd realize the material gives you enough to improvise in. Like, so it says a room could be this, and this. So you just say there's ruins and give some details, but you have nothing prepped. But if players want to go up there, it can be one of these ruins, and you'll have so much lore you can just choose to share. So you can improvise all this on the spot without needing to prep every single location you mentioned, but you should be able to comfortably be able to improvise. So at any time you feel like adding a location in that will deliver a feel, an experience, an appearance to the place, you can just do that and make sure that's a thing. It's like Bushido. Bushido tells you what people are going to be like. So you're not going to come up with all these different NPC ideas, right? You're sort of going to have an idea of what a variety of NPCs are going to be like from the get-go, right away. So even if you feel like they should be running into somebody here, but you have not prepped anybody, and you say, okay, I'm going to put somebody in there, there's already like so many different ideas for what kind of person that can be. So you can just like, oh, I'll make it that kind of person. So improvising isn't like Chartso. It's not like D&D. A lot of it is just trust the guy running the game. And I like that more, like the roll master thing for damage, where I would do damage differently with D&D, but it was like roll master, where you could, if there was so much, if like half your hit points was gone in one shot, you might lose an arm in my game. In the D&D, there's no D&D lose your arm thing, but I did that. It was all physical damage. I got inspired by copying Rollmaster, but the difference is I never used a chart. I based the type of damage on the hit points and the damage done in D&D. And then I go to this, you can get your arm broken, you can get your arm cut off, sort of like the Rollmaster thing, but without the chart, trusting I wouldn't be repetitive. And then just keep myself in check. And then having players always fine with it. No player felt like I was repetitive. So it's just making sure you're putting yourself in check for how many times you do things. Like if you're repetitive, that's not because the task is bad. It's a you issue. So I would hear guys like, well, yeah, but what if you were repetitive doing that? Yeah, but then you don't do it. That's a you issue. That's not the amount of things that can happen. That's a you issue. The task itself is actually okay, but you don't be repetitive. You don't always repeat the same thing. Right? So sometimes you got to stop, because a lot of people have egos. So they'll accuse a task of failing. I'm like, no, it never failed. It's you that failed. The whole task is all right. It's you. Because the way they'll talk about it is if they can't do it, nobody can. That's like pure theater of the mind with combat, right? I can do pure theater of the mind combat with many games, especially Dungeons and Dragons. Guys will be like, well, I need paper and miniature. Well, I get you do, but you know how many times before I listened to a panel of guys talking, well, you can't really do this kind of combat without miniatures. Yes, you can. I've done it thousands of times. Sorry, dude. And I've done it slick, imperfect, like breathing air. So I've done it fucking mint, hit it out of the fucking park, nailed it a couple thousand times, like breathing air. Sorry, dude. Can do it. Done it. You couldn't. It's not that pure theater of the mind combat is bad. It's not the task that's the issue. It's the person. Right? No, that's same for a lot of people. That's it. Like I got you, Rourke, and a few other second edition guys that are around because you guys know I love my second edition stuff. But I just did so many other games, and I carried so many things over, like a sandboxing, proper sandboxing, not like Adam. I did my sandboxing video where I'm just giving advice about sandboxing the way I did it for D&D. And I say, I'm saying the video, it's the way I did it for D&D. So a bunch of D&D guys come back and said, you're wrong. I was like, well, you know what? You're giving yourselves away, guys. I said, because what you're doing is admitting to me that you have almost no experience outside of D&D. Because what I was doing was taking sandboxing as it's worked for every other tabletop role-playing game. That's just proper sandboxing. It's sandboxing before D&D ever used the term, right? So they were already talking about sandboxing, but for other games. And sandboxing is what you do instead of having pre-made modules or pre-made adventures or modules, right? So how do you play Traveler without the pre-made stuff? You sandbox. How do you play Pendragon without the pre-made stuff? You sandbox. How do you play all these games without the pre-made adventures and modules? Sandbox, right? But sandboxing is freedom for the players. It's a completely different thing. Sandboxing was so popular that it could replace modules, and if TSR accepted it, it could lose a lot of money. And the modules were like the settings were a money grab, right? So they didn't want to accept sandboxing because it would take money from them. So what do? Years later, they steal the term sandboxing and they redefine it as a different thing. Like their sandboxing is part of a module. That's not real sandboxing, right? But they redefined it because they were making money off of modules. Same thing with their setting shit. If you look at Traveler, you could build 500 different settings. Like you just take the information in the book and make a setting. And D&D was capable of doing this too. Just giving you the information you need to make as many settings as you want for a D&D game. No problem. Could have done that for you, but they didn't do that. What they did was give you settings because settings was extended material to make money. It's a money grab. But other games, a lot of them just had ways for you to keep building as many worlds as you want with their system. You build the world you want, you run with that. That's it. So what I did was I talked about sandboxing, the real sandboxing, and that I use real sandboxing with D&D, not the redefined module version. But the guys were like, you're wrong. I'm like, well, I'm not wrong, but what you're confessing to me is you lack experience. A shoebox, not a sandbox. Yeah, modules. I mean, I don't mind. They guys, they look nice, say this, and they give you ideas. I'm like, look, I'm not going to argue. There's some good art with them and all this shit, but I have no interest in them. I prefer sandbox because sandbox means you don't need a module. I prefer just sandbox, period. No, I have not, Craig. No, I have not. I used to make up my own all the time. That was my experience years ago when I did Traveler. I just make up my own. But I think I've seen it, but it always looks messy to me. Like it looks so fucking. What's this place? I don't know. I prefer less to just sort of scratch it up, but have it more in my head. I hate what the online maps look like sometimes with some things. I'll have to check it out though, Craig. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Maybe it's good. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong with Traveler. Maybe. Could be. Don't know. Don't 100% know about that one. No, but I like, but yeah, sandboxing. Guys would give it away to me that they weren't good. They just didn't understand real sandboxing. I'm like, guys, I'm not wrong. You're just inexperienced with other tabletop role playing games. Because I had a bunch of D&D guys to say you're wrong about sandboxing. Like they thought they were calling me out. I'm like, no, dude, you're just I said anyone who's played a tabletop role playing game outside of D&D will know my video about the way I do sandboxing with D&D is completely fine. They would understand just normal sandboxing. So I knew anybody with any real experience would know it right away. I knew D&D guys who lacked experience but fibbed and said they had it would come out say I'm wrong. I'm like, I'm just not wrong. You don't have the experience to know. You don't know. Queen of the Spiders and The Night Below were the best published modules ever written. Oh, I know a lot of guys. Yeah, you're talking about Drow stuff, aren't you? mainly with the night below, isn't it? Drow mainly. There's a lot of relation to Drow stuff. I've never did the modules myself. I read them and I played in a few. I played a couple where guys ran them. I was never impressed, and not just because I hate the ideas. I want, like, as a player. This is why I quit playing after 10 years, because I didn't want to play modules ever. Uh, I just give me the fucking town, give me the city, and then just get the fuck out of my way. Like, just be able to run with whatever I'm doing. That's all I wanted a game master to do. Just, dude, I want a normal fucking DM that can improvise. Just please be able to do that. I'm not gonna blow the game up. I'll work with you, but I want to do whatever. Well, you got to go deal with this, and I don't want to fucking deal with that shit. I just want to go do what I want to do. That's all I want to do. That's all I want to do. That's how I started. Was a guy running D&D with the proper old school sandbox. It's the way I was introduced to the game. And I got addicted to that because it just meant I had freedom. It meant I can just fuck your, and nothing against what you're saying out of there, but it'd be like, fuck your Queen of Spiders, fuck your Knight of Below, fuck your module bullshit. I want to go do what I want to do. I want to decide what's interesting to me and my character. And I could take initiative. I didn't need a DM to, oh, man, they're just sitting around doing nothing. You don't have to worry about that with me. I take the initiative right away. I'll go do all kinds of shit, but I want to do what I want to do, right? Was Epiles, Lithid, Stero, Digger. Well, I knew one of them was Drow. The Queen was the Drow. I just don't know. I played a few. I played a little bit. I can barely remember. I never ran not a single module on purpose, too. People would always ask me, will you run this module? I don't do modules, dude. I don't want to either. I have no interest in it. That's why I don't get all connected to, like, even the settings. I'm just not married on the settings. I'll hear, like, watch these, they might change Dragonlance. I'm like, I like Dragonlance, but I don't give a shit. Whatever. I don't give a fuck. What I'm passionate about is gaming. I'm not married to a brand. I love second edition, but I don't like WotC is doing third edition. I don't give a fuck. Fourth edition, I don't care. Fifth edition, they're changing this. I don't give a fuck. I absolutely don't care at all. I don't slightly care. I'm not mad at WotC, nothing. I feel nothing. Like, I see all these guys like, WotC's ruined the game. Are you playing AD&D 1E? Yeah. Is WotC ruining that for you? Well, no. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like, let the new generation. Well, that's not D&D. Let the fuck look. To Beck me, guys, AD&D 1 was fucked. I mean, if you go back and really understand old school, I talked to Beck me people back when I joined. Beck me guys hated AD&D 1E. They hated the switch over. They knew Beckme was sort of, even original guys didn't like even some of the switches with Beckme. And you would hear like AD&D 1E guys call a second edition not proper D&D. Like, dude, they're always going to change shit. And you might not like the culture or the timing, but as long as it doesn't stop you from doing what you're doing, it just doesn't fucking matter. Be passionate about what you do, not about trying to own something. Yeah, how many planets there are officially, if you go by their setting, but if you remember, originally they had no setting. They just had this system to make a world, like to make planets up on your own. And I personally like that, but I do know what you're talking about, Craig. But if you go back into the history of Traveller, they don't initially start off with something, but then they finally have something at one point. And I'm like, I like the idea of just making up your own shit. And then using, the potential stuff they would have. Like, it's potentially there, but you make up whatever plants you want wherever you're going to have them. I like doing that personally, but I do know what you're talking about. They made a setting later because a lot of guys started doing money grabs because you put out one product and it's like you're not bringing out a second edition anytime soon. This is how you're going to make money. TSR sort of had it right, but they had it wrong too. It's just, how would you compete with TSR? Well, if you're going to put out your game, how do you put it out without pre-made adventures? Again, this is the sandbox thing. This is why I prefer sandbox. This is why I teach sandbox in the Neo TTRPG system. Like I talk about improvising, I talk about sandboxing pretty much, right? And the reason I drill on sandboxing is because I'm just teaching sandboxing, so you don't need a module. Oh, I hear you, but it is well known. I'm not crapping on it, but it was big. I mean, they did develop it over a long time. There's no dish. I have no issue with it. It's just I I happened to pick up just the book the way it was from a guy who had the original thing. I fucking said I'm just gonna make up my own shit. I did that with like everything, like Forgotten Realms. I remember when I first finally got a setting because I made my own setting already for D&D. I ran my own stuff all the time. Like I ran these islands all the time. I remember I just sort of had a vague world, right? And I call it Skullhorn. I sort of had Skullhorn before it was anything developed. I would just go, let's plant Skullhorn. You're on an island. Where? Who fucking cares? You're on an island. I'd be that type of DM, right? I'd put you on an island and just fucking run the game. But then it got to the point where I got the Forgotten Realms setting, and I looked at the lore, and I went, yeah, fuck this. So I sort of had an idea with the lore, but I said, all right, I'm going to say like fucking, like 100 years goes by. So the Forgotten Realms has completely changed. I'm going to put whatever I want, wherever I want, pretty much. Other than I was influenced by some things, like humans were here. Okay, I took the influence of the lore, but I didn't want to be pigeonholed by nerd gamers. So I said, okay, I'm just going to have 100 years go by, and whatever you're going to say, yeah, but why isn't this in Suzale? 100 years went by, and I don't care. I put whatever I want. But it wasn't like I just changed everything absolute. It was more like I just said, here, I want to make it my way. Like some things I don't like. Most things I like doing my way. The exception outside of making a world like running things a certain way, like running raw. Some outside games I ran more outside of D&D raw. But I never ran D&D raw ever. Name from a different tarot card. This is one of the Ace of Cups artwork matches. I hear that. I don't know. You want to know what I found? What's funny? I love host ruling, old school D&D. I love changing stuff in D&D, and that was always the magic for me, was wanting to put my own stuff. But what was weird is outside of D&D, a lot of the games I'd actually run raw. So games were so specific by the designers outside of D&D that it like D&D. They'd say, "Well, play it for what it is," but I'm like, there's just a lot of vagueness. It's actually made to be generic and you to experiment. So I get to know the game playing it raw, but then I do whatever I want. Though when you went to play like Pendragon, you can't really change it too much. Like you don't even need to. You don't feel the need to because you're only there for a specific experience. For D&D, what I liked about the generic D&D was a game that can give you a variety of experiences. So for that reason, I could experiment and change things for more experiences, right? With Pendragon, I had no problem running it raw, for example, because it has a specific experience. Like same with Traveler, I run it raw because it's a specific experience. Where D&D is way more generic in the sense of the way it was made. That's why it brought more people into. And it was sort of made generic, I think, partially on purpose, or kept generic partially on purpose, so you could have all these different things you could put into it. But I was like, I didn't need the company to make shit. Though I sort of understand why the company did it. Tournament play was a money grab. 1-to-1 time was to keep tournament play organized. It wasn't like 1-to-1 time was this great timing idea, even though it was argued. Like the way Gary would put it is a lot of DMs were casual. So like the idea in his mind was if you played, no matter how long you play in their campaigns, it might always be summer, right? But what he understood was a good DM like me, I didn't need 1-to-1 time. I could just, if so much time passed in the game, I'd actually acknowledge it and express it. So you wouldn't be stuck in summer in my game. But I didn't need 1-to-1 time to make that happen. I just do it on my own. 1-to-1 time mixed with the shared world concept was to keep tournament play organized. It was just so tournament play wouldn't be stupid. I host World Initiative. Yeah, I hear that same thing. Energy drain, training. Brought Sorcerer and Warlock classes over to second. A lot of guys. Yeah, it's easy to adapt those things over. I had no problem doing. I didn't do training either. I dropped that. Yeah, I did the whole max thing because it's like people are like, "Well, it's hard," or I'm like, "The game's hard enough. Trust me. I will mentally fuck with you more than just." In my game, players are more fucked with than just like deadly combat. Like I fuck with guys so much. My players were fucking. They tell you they're like, "Well, you might think it's hard because you're going in and your character dies from a bit of damage." If I go into Steven's game, I remember guys trying to go into my dungeons. They get like a session through my dungeon, and they just by the next session. It's not that they thought it was bad; they always thought it was good, but it was like it was such a mind fucking so hard. They just want to get out. They'd be like, "Man, I don't want to be in here no more." Like, man, am I running it badly? No, no, just fucking very hard, and you're fucked. Like guys would tell you, like just because you have a character survive in Steven's game doesn't mean you feel it's easy. It's fucking grindy and hard and mentally fucked, and things could blow up on you. And if like one guy said, he says, "I know you have no intention of mentally abusing us, Steven, but that's what it feels like." Like I know you're not doing that on purpose or being mean or a bad DM. He's like, "No, I think you're like my players were always happy, but it was like fucking they tell. Sometimes it was the good was good. The role play, the interaction, all that, even the fighting was all good. It was exciting, but there were times from my game where my players would just tell me, it's like that banging on the back of the wall. You get to a fucking cabin and you hear like a knock. My players would just shudder. I ran a zombie game where I like getting in guys' heads, like really with the theater of the mind stuff. If it got to the point where the zombies got to them, guys would have to get up and walk from the table. Like they'd be so because they know I'm going to play. Because here's what they would hate about me: if the zombies are going to eat you alive, I'm describing the whole thing, and like they're going to be alive. I'm like, fuck, you're gonna make me go through this whole thing. Like guys would just try to avoid the zombies. I remember I sort of made a freestyle game up of just this zombie game because we were all into the zombie stuff for a while, and the guys were like, "Ah, shit." I use a starting racial HP from Pathfinder plus class HP plus comp bonus. Did they get one? But that's just starting HP. A dwarf fighter can start with 22 hit points. I didn't do the Pathfinder stuff. Remember, I only did second edition. Like I did AD&D 1E. I did 5E finally recently for the first time. I never did third or fourth edition. 5E is the first WotC edition I ever tried. I ran that for a short bit. I did original BECME AD&D 1, and then mainly, as everybody knows, I ran mostly AD&D second edition. It's like the whole this game is this. I was like, well, you know what? My game doesn't have demons, and it's just trying to open up to more people. Like, fuck off. Thaco works better with second edition. Overall, the campaigns get through. We do character development much better and faster than AD&D 1E. And character development was the key to AD&D 1E. When you finally talk to AD&D 1E DMs, I found it funny. They would talk about the importance of character development. They would always tell me, every DM I ever talked to, I said, you ran a campaign for over a year or something like that. And they tell me how important it was, like after about a year, on average, it could take a year, like it'd take a lot of months for a character to develop. But in their game, the players are not intentionally trying to develop the character. It's just going to happen naturally. But once it happens, every 1E DM would tell me, yeah, once it happens, they're more consistent coming to the sessions. Like once they know who their character is and they have a connection, that character survived, they show up to more sessions and we complete campaigns. But they also knew that 80% of campaigns that would start for anybody would never get completed with AD&D 1E. With second edition, and they figured out what's the second you develop a character and get connected to it, You're more stable as a player. You're coming back all the time. Campaigns are then almost guaranteed to get completed. Second edition simply understood that players had to focus on doing that. And if they did, that same character development could happen in weeks to a month. So it's like, and realizing the value of the character development was something 1E DMs already understood. So they're like, they weren't arguing. They would describe it as being great and describe it as the reason they were able to finish their campaigns. Second edition figures that out almost right away. Get it done early, get it focused on, and then get rid of the battle matrix and use THACO. Simplify THACO. They did it. And then they got rid of labels like demons. And then you could advance anything you like from 1E, you could just carry over, like you were talking about there, Adam. So it's like I don't get the addition war there between. It's like it's just AD&D, but cleaned up. What the fuck are we talking about here? Well, they don't have demons. Like, oh, fuck off. They don't have a fucking label. Piss off. They simplified THACO. It's not the major different. There's no addition war here. It's AD&D, dude. It's just AD&D where we learned some shit. So they made some changes. Could you still use assassin? Yeah, carry your assassin thing over and use it. Like, calm the fuck down. And when you talk to, here's what's funny. You talk to AD&D 1E guys. Hey, do you think THACO was better as second edition? Yeah. And you still value the character development stuff from AD&D 1E? Yeah. Then what's wrong with second edition? Or skills. Here's another thing, guys. I'll finish with this because we're not finished, but skills is on this topic. Skills is one thing I've noticed because I've heard now several debates online where guys are like, I don't like skills. Like, I have no issue with old school DMing where there's no skills. I have no issues with it, to be honest. But when DMs complain about it like it's shit, I'm like, no, let's be honest. You shouldn't be complaining about skills. They're like, why? Skills give more information to players and ideas to pitch at you that challenges you, the game master, more than without the skills. If you get a regular person with no skills just playing the game, they're going to pitch very basic shit at you. That's all you got to deal with. Very basic shit. If I give several skills with some information to players, well, now they can do all the regular shit, but now they can do all this advanced shit. Now that's all it is. It's more challenging to you, the game master. Now that's all it is. So just admit you don't like to be challenged on skills. It's just giving more information to players to pitch more ideas at you than they normally would. Because I think that's all skills are doing. Skills are just providing more information. You get more information. So the basic shit you would like. So if you're just a basic casual person in life playing the game, you might think, really basic shit when you're pitching to the DM. That's really easy on the DM. But imagine if I give you skills with more information than you normally would have as a person. So now you have more ideas, more information, more options because your character also knows this shit to pitch even more advanced stuff at a game master, which is more challenging to the game master. It's all skills are doing. So when you say you don't like them, let's just be honest. The only reason you wouldn't like them is because you don't like being challenged. There's no way around it. If you're okay with people pitching shit at you without them, why would it matter if they pitch it at you with them? The only reason it would matter to you is it's more challenging and you don't want to be challenged. Like, how can we get around? Like, how can you even deny that? Skills are, and most games outside of D&D were all skills. Like, so if you played all these different games, they're all skills. But the reason skills weren't frowned upon by the guys because they're talking to hobbyists. It should be remember, you would hear casual old school DMs, casual people that were drawn to the hobby casual. They complain about the skills. What I tell them is hobbyists do not complain about the skills and go to any game purely made for the hobbyist. And pretty much every one of them has skills. Every one of them. And why are skills accepted in all the hobbyist games that are meant to be perform up here? It's because skills are more challenging to a game master. It's players automatically are going to receive information that will inspire other ideas than they naturally would come up with on their own. So now you get all the regular shit they would pitch at you, but you get all this extended shit too. So it's going to challenge you more. Get over it. Stop complaining about skills. Skills were never a problem in the game. Whenever I hear somebody say they don't like skills as a game master right away, I'm like, yeah, just admit you're fucking weak. Let's be honest about that one. That'd be the only reason you're frowning at skills. There's no other good reason to oppose skills other than you don't want to be fucking challenged. There's just no good reason. Skills are they're actually good in the game. They're interesting for players. Talk to players. Hey, do you guys hate skills? Nope. I've never met a player who says I'm against skills. But I met the casual AD&D 1E DMs, the guys that were not hobbyists, that could not perform up here, the guys that perform down here. Quite a few of them will say they don't like skills, but I'm like, yeah, because you perform down here and you're just a casual guy. You're not a hobbyist. No wonder. That will make a guy tune out to my stream right away. One of those guys are watching. Yeah, because it's just right away gives players more ideas. To me, it's fun because I can handle it. So I think it's exciting to get players with more ideas. And I find it boring when players don't have ideas. Like, I'm like, dude, I hope this gives you, like, I open to non-weapon proficiencies. I don't do secondary. Sometimes I'll do secondary and non-weapon proficiencies. Right? I open the whole thing up sometimes. On certain campaigns, right? I'll let you take the secondary in and the skills. And the kits even come with skills too. And I love kits because kits, I personally like the skill. Yeah, I don't like too many things from the flat books, but I love the kits because kits give directions to players to play characters. So I find that actually helps. It's like you're a fighter. Oh, what do I do with my fighter? Well, here, take a kit because a kit gives you an idea of like, okay, because then that gives players an idea. Like, I'll play to that thing, right? So I like that. But guys, it's like 3 hours and 20 minutes, and I know some of the Norway guys are probably just about oak cold. Some people are quite in the background here, probably listening. I hope you've all enjoyed the whole stream. Tomorrow night, members only. Drift might be around, but I know it might just be me, Craig, and Black Rose, right? And I'll make sure to get through the material as quick as I can right up front so we can talk about things. But I'll have material for Savage Worlds to cover for you two. But it's just going to be us, so it'll be more intimate. I can take more breaks. It's private too. It's only going to be us three and nobody else. Or it's only going to be like, well, unless Drift Speed shows up, it's mainly going to be me, Craig, and Black Rose. As far as I know, unless somebody else takes up membership and decides to jump in. Yeah, the Norway guys are cool. Yes, Craig, as always. I thank you, Adam, for showing up in chat. I really appreciate it. I'm really glad you got around to a stream. I really, 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 really am. I appreciate you giving me your time. Craig, Black Rose, all you. I love you. Philo, thanks for being around, dude. I love all you. And anybody else is watching who hasn't spoken up, well, you don't have to, but I love you. Even thanks stopping by there, Miles, and asking the question, or at least commenting about me running a live game. I'll try to make it happen at one point.